What is up, everybody? It is Super Bowl Sunday, which means it is our final NFL show. Well, not of the year, but of the season. Obviously, there's going to be NFL shows later on in 2026, but not for many months until the NFL season starts back up. And hopefully, you guys had a good NFL season overall. And also, hopefully, we're able to close strong here. Here's one of the ways that we could help you close strong because it is the final day of the NFL season. We are running our NFL weekly package 40% off with the promo code DEFENSE. You do want to make sure you sign up for the weekly package, not the monthly package, just because there's only 12 hours left in the NFL season. So sign up for the weekly package and use that promo code DEFENSE in all capital letters at checkout to get yourself a 40% off for the one Super Bowl slate that we have today. And also one other deal that we have, the final day of our weekly props package. That is also just $1 with the promo code PROP. That package launched this week. And today is the absolute final day for both of these promo codes. So take advantage of them if you have not already. And if you got any questions for me as we go here, let me know in the chat. Not doing the show leading up to lock, obviously, just because a lot of you guys are going to have, and us as well, have plans later on in the day. So wanted to make sure we made the show as accessible to everybody as possible. So, totally understand if there are less questions as we go here, but no worries. We could just go on and I'll build out lineups if nobody has any particular questions. But with that said, I do think there's something kind of interesting in the chat here from Jay. So there's a couple of different things here. And also, Dan C answered in chat and pretty much hit the nail on the head. But there's a couple of reasons for this. So Jay Ramos wants to know, is there a reason why when I make a lineup in the simulator and it's positive, then maybe like an hour later and I make said lineup, it won't always be negative, but there is a possibility. So here's the reason why. Dan hit the nail on the head here when he said, well, actually with both things. When he said projections updates, we did do a projections update this morning, and think of it this way. So for NFL, there's not going to be as many drastic changes as something like NBA. But for NBA, you can build a lineup early on in the day. A player gets ruled out, and it completely changes the projections, the ownership on the slate. So there might be like a can't miss value play who you didn't have in your lineup earlier because they weren't even a viable or an option that would have come to mind for anybody. And then later on in the day, the guy could be like 3K projected for 30 fantasy points, and lineups without him are they're going to sim out negative. So projections and ownership changes, that absolutely could be an issue, just as Dan said here. The other thing too is that it's a simulation. The exact same result isn't going to happen every time. It's still going to be directionally accurate, but think of it this way. We've got the Super Bowl. The Seahawks playing the Patriots today. If the Seahawks win, it does not mean the Seahawks beat the Patriots every single time they play them. It doesn't mean if they play in the Super Bowl again next year that the Seahawks end up winning just because they won this time. So what happens in the simulations is we're simulating the slate in that lineup that you built thousands and thousands of times. Off the top of my head, I think the number is 40,000, but I could be remembering inaccurately. But I think that's the number, is 40,000. So you're simulating out that lineup 40,000 times in a GPP setting. So directionally, it's going to be about accurate. But think how top-heavy contests are. If in that 40,000 sim runs, let's just say it happens to win a GPP twice out of 40,000 times in one sim run and then 0 times on another, that will make the simulation, the sim ROI, look a little bit different. Those are the two reasons why you'll see different numbers. But in general, it is going to be directionally accurate when there aren't projection changes. So you might see a lineup that has like a 7.8% sim ROI and then like 15%, then maybe it'll be like 12% on another run. It's not going to be the exact same number every single time. So I hope that made some sense. And with that in mind, do we have any other questions at the top of the show here? Nothing in the YouTube chat. Let's check the Discord for any questions. And nothing immediately here. So let's start building out some lineups for tonight's game. And we'll start on the DraftKings. So I'll build out lineups for both DraftKings and FanDuel. I'll also let you guys in on what our projections are right now. And there shouldn't be too many major changes to projections throughout the day. It's the Super Bowl, so you wouldn't anticipate any kind of, late scratches or anything like that. But there could be prop lines that change over the course of the day that might move around player projections by like a few tenths of a fantasy point or so. But here's what we got for right now. Leading the way, it is JSN over Kenneth Walker. There's about a 2 fantasy point gap between the two of them. Then you've got the 2 quarterbacks, Drake May projecting for about 1.5 more fantasy points than Sam Darnold. Then you get a tier of Ramondre Stevenson. Nobody is projected nearly around Stevenson. You look at, he's projected for 3 less fantasy points than Sam Darnold, but 3.5 more fantasy points than Stephon Diggs. So if you get in that price range where you got like $9,200, $9K left, you're going to end up playing Stevenson in that spot. If you go down here, then we got Stephon Diggs. Of all the pay-up options, Diggs by a mile has the lowest projection, which makes sense. He does not have great prop lines. The receiving yard prop for Stephon Diggs, when I checked last, which was about an hour ago, was 44.5 receiving yards. So when you consider Stephon Diggs, 44.5 receiving yards, not super likely to score a touchdown, you land on a projection of a pretty low 11 fantasy points for what his salary is there. Next group of guys in the 9 fantasy point range, you've got Hunter Henry, Jason Myers, who does project better than Andy Borregales for us. Then you got Cooper Kupp at 9.07 fantasy points. So those are some of the higher projected players. If we look at the ownership for the slate in the flex spot, Drake May, Kenneth Walker, JSN towards the top. And then if you look at the top value options in our projections, it's Eric Saubert, George Halani, Kenneth Walker, JSN, Jason Myers, Matt Collins. So some of the pay-up options, still some of the top points per dollar plays in our projections. And then if we go ahead and look in the captain spot, here's the captain ownership. You've got JSN 28.5% owned, Kenneth Walker 20% owned, Drake May 11% owned, Ramondre Stevenson 8% owned, Darnold 5%, and nobody else really pulling a massive amount of ownership at the captain spot. So with all that said, let's go ahead and start building out some lineups, and let's just start really basic by building a lineup around some of the most pronounced chalk and see how it sims out, and then we'll make some changes from there. All right, so in the captain spot, and if I am just playing one lineup, I know he's chalky, but JSN is my favorite overall captain in the game, and I'll plug him into this. Now, if we go to the top points per dollar plays that we have in our projections, I guess if we want to go stars and scrubs, Eric Saubert is the one, and it's not like some massive projection on him, but 1.83 fantasy points for Eric Saubert at $600. It does have him as the top overall spend down option. So let's try to build a stars and scrubs lineup. We'll go Saubert, Halani. Well, it's kind of funny. Then if I go Kenneth Walker, all of a sudden now we're getting to a spot where we got $9,900 left, and we're leaning into a Seahawks 5-1 stack. But let's roll with it. So it makes sense to have Darnold in this lineup. So if we go to, well, actually, if we go Darnold, we don't really have, oh no, we could, yeah. So if we went to Darnold here, then we have 9K left, and we could plug in Stevenson. So let's see. This looks like it's one of the better lineups you could possibly build from a projection standpoint in our data. It's JSN in the captain spot, Eric Saubert as a punt option, Halani, good value play in the absence of Zach Charbonnet. We've seen 2 games this year where Halani was getting increased workload in the absence of Charbonnet. He played about 35% of the snaps in each of them, and that includes the NFC Championship game. So it does not seem like the Seahawks will stray away from playing Halani in high leverage situations. Also, something to note, Kenneth Walker is a very, very poor pass blocker. So they have Halani out on the field in basically any sort of passing situation because he's the better pass blocker of the two. So this should be a pretty safe role for Halani. He is my favorite overall value option on the slate. Then we've got Darnold and Ramondre Stevenson. Let's build this out. Let's see how it sims. I should have made some changes here. Oh, it came out actually really well. I'm just going to go a large contest, and let's go a little bit more top heavy because of the way that the contest starts today. Because the top milli on DraftKings, let's see, what is it for payout to first? So I could change that to what we're using here. So the milli pays out, actually not super top heavy. So let's go, yeah, we'll go 25% to first and large contest for the rest of the lineups we build. And in chat here from Corbin says, I seem to be getting a lot of 5-1 May with 5 Seahawks lineups coming up as optimal. Does that seem correct to you? Yeah. So here's why that is happening and why it makes sense to me. Almost all the value in this game is on the Seahawks side of the game. So let's go back to the projections, the flex spot, and go points per dollar. Check this out. Our top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points per dollar plays in this game are all on the Seahawks side. Then it's Matt Collins. Then it's Cooper Kupp. Then you got some of the Patriots guys that start to come in. Because Zach Charbonnet is out and Halani isn't really properly priced for that, he's a good value option. We've got Eric Saubert as well at $600 is the best punt play on the slate. And then the two top spend up options in our projections are Kenneth Walker. He also benefits from the absence of Zach Charbonnet. And then you got JSN, who's just flat out the best fantasy producer in the game overall. So with that in mind, yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that you're getting more lineups gravitating towards the Seahawks. That's just where the pricing is more favorable. All right, let's see what else we could do here. So we just built out a fairly chalky lineup, but it came out well. I wouldn't be surprised if the first lineup that we build ends up being the best lineup that we get over the course of the entire show. Let's try a different build here. Let's go Drake May in the captain spot. Now, if I'm going to roster one of the quarterbacks in the multiplier spot, it's Drake May over Sam Darnold all day for me. Sam Darnold only has a few games all year with more than 10 rushing yards. And then also, he has 0 touchdowns on the entire season. Running the football is just not really in Sam Darnold's repertoire. Drake May, on the other hand, obviously running is in his repertoire. So for Sam Darnold, I just think the path for him to be the optimal captain, it's really thin. Like, what has to happen? You have to have Sam Darnold throw for 300 plus yards and probably 2 or 3 touchdowns. And he has to do that with JSN not going for over 100 yards and a touchdown, because if JSN does that, then he just outscores Sam Darnold. So Darnold, that's going to be a no-go for me in the captain spot. Drake May, on the other hand, I do like him in the captain spot. So let's try a Drake May captain lineup. As far as guys to pair with Drake May, I do like getting to Matt Collins, one of the top overall value options in this game. And I think actually top value option on the Patriots side of the game. So let's go Drake May to Matt Collins. Who else do we want to put in here? I guess we'll go JSN on the other side. That still gives us $6,100 left. So if this is going to be geared a little bit more towards the Patriots, let's also go Jason Myers to save ourselves some salary. That'll give us $64,500 left for 2 lineup spots. And we got 2 Patriots and 2 Seahawks right now. Let's just see if we set this to 10% randomness. Press complete the lineup in the optimizer. What shows up? We got, let's see, Kenneth Walker and George Holani. And by the way, because of the price on Holani, I have no issue playing him and Kenneth Walker together in the same lineup. But it might be something that's kind of a unique build, because I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the field simply doesn't want anything to do with playing the 2 of those guys in the same lineup together. So I like that combination quite a bit. Holani and Kenneth Walker together. See how this one sims out. Not great, not terrible either, though. 18.8% sim ROI. Should be fairly unique. We left $700 in salary on the table. So that is going to be something that for a contest like this Super Bowl one, which is 264,000 entrants, a ton of people. One of the easiest ways to make a lineup that's a little bit different is going to be by leaving salary on the table. I probably won't play any lineups to use all the salary today. Let's go over to FanDuel. Built out a couple of DraftKings lineups. Let's try out the FanDuel side of things. Now on FanDuel, let's also sort by value just so we get a sense of who the best points per dollar plays are over for FanDuel, which often ends up gearing more towards running backs on FanDuel because pass catchers, wide receivers, they're going to lose the benefit of the full point PPR. So you see here our top points per dollar plays. We've got Kenneth Walker, then both the quarterbacks, Jason Myers, still JSN up there, then Andy Borregales. And then there's a bit of a drop-off here. Is there anybody really cheap? Well, I guess Myers at $6,800 is fairly cheap. Same with Borregales. We got, Eric Sauber, $1,200 over on FanDuel. He'll help save some salary. Holani, $4,400. But with that said, they're not top points per dollar options on FanDuel in the same way that they are over on DraftKings. Let's build out a lineup now. So for FanDuel purposes, let's go to Kenneth Walker in the MVP spot. With him in the MVP spot over on FanDuel, once again, he's going to be pretty popular. But over on FanDuel, Kenneth Walker is my favorite overall MVP option. If we could pick anybody over on DraftKings, like I said before, that's at JSN for me over on the DK side. But let's go Kenneth Walker. And if we go Walker, let's also go Drake May. Who else would we want in this lineup? Let's try going stars and scrubs. If we go, how does this look? If we go Drake May, Kenneth Walker, if we go Saubert, maybe we'll go Borregales as well to save salary on the Patriots side. I guess we kind of have to go to JSN then because we got a lot of salary left. And then who fits in next? Stevenson, I think. If we sort by projection. Or does Stevenson not fit, I guess? Oh, yeah, Stevenson a little bit too expensive. All right, let's see if we take out Borregales. That gives us 8,200. And then I'll use the optimizer to fill in the final 2 spots. And we ended up getting to Kenneth Walker, George Holani. Oh, this looks kind of similar to the DraftKings lineup we built out before. Kenneth Walker, Holani, JSN, Drake May, Sam Darnold, Eric Saubert. Let's see how this sims out on FanDuel now. Yeah, kind of like the same players we had on DraftKings, just, situate a little bit differently. 3.5% sim ROI. Not as good as the DraftKings lineup. The FanDuel pricing is pretty tight. I think FanDuel is much more difficult to build lineups for on this slate than the DraftKings one. What's our optimal FanDuel lineup? Let's see this. 0% randomness and just build around this. What shows up? Jason Myers, Kenneth Walker, JSN, Drake May, Sam Darnold, Eric Saubert. Well, it looks ugly on paper. Now I'm just kind of curious how it sims out. I saw some people before asking about the defenses. All right, well, if I just built out the optimal lineup, it came out way better than the lineup where I actually tried to build a lineup. Let's try the defenses. We'll go back to DraftKings and build a lineup with some defenses in it. Here's what we got for the projections on the Ds. So we go to the flex. We have, I'm going to sort by salary, actually, just so we get kind of like a comparison of the defenses compared to the players who are priced around them. By the way, if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It would be very much appreciated. Only takes a couple seconds of your time. It's totally free to do so. Checking out Tails is also free. I have a couple of Super Bowl bets posted there. I'll be adding more over the course of the day. One thing that I am pretty interested on is I actually bet the field to win the MVP against either of the quarterbacks. I think it's kind of an interesting angle for today. On the Seahawks side of the game, if they win, I think pretty much anybody is live to end up being MVP. You've got JSN. Kenneth Walker could have a decent game. They're loaded on defense. Who knows? Maybe Shaheed could break a long one or something like that. So I do like, I think the odds I got was like plus 250 on a non-quarterback to win MVP. So that's an interesting way that you could bet the game. And then I'll be adding more bets throughout the day over to Tails. Same with, Laffy, Ben, Eric, and everybody else who's here. But all right, so defense projections you guys wanted to know. Here's what we've got them now. So the Patriots defense at 4K is projected for 5.52 fantasy points. So they've come down in projection a little bit for us relative to where they were at yesterday. So for comparison, you've got Mac Hollins projected better just underneath the Patriots defense. You could save $400 and go to him. And then if you were to spend $200 more, you get to Rashid Shaheed, who is projected for about 0.8 of a fantasy point more for $200 more. As far as the Seahawks defense goes, their projection has also come down a little bit from yesterday, but they still project very well for us. 7.22 fantasy points for the Seahawks defense. If you did want to go up to Barner or Borregales, they project a little bit better, but the Seahawks defense does project much better than the players underneath them. Shaheed, the Patriots defense, Trevion Henderson. We've got also the Seahawks defense projecting better than Mac Hollins as well. But let's try. Let's try a lineup with both the defenses in it. We'll go JSN in the captain here. All right, so we'll go JSN captain and then double D. So we'll go Seahawks, Patriots, and that then gives us $8,000 left for the final 2 spots. Now, if we're going to go both defenses, I think it makes sense to avoid the quarterbacks in this one particular lineup, just because how do defenses generally score fantasy points? Sacks, turnovers, interceptions, pick 6. So let's go to the higher price skill position players around this. So we'll go Kenneth Walker and Ramondre Stevenson. And that gives us $5,600. Who fits in here? Jason Myers. Okay, that works pretty perfectly. See how this comes out. So we've got JSN, Seahawks defense, Patriots defense, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Jason Myers, 0 QBs. Is it positive? Pretty damn good. 74.2% sim ROI. Double D for the win, guys. Fill them all up. Let's see, were there any other questions? Not in Discord. I see we got the super chat, though, so let's plug this in. This is from JB Hughes, a DraftKings lineup. Let's plug it in. He went with Kenneth Walker in the captain. Okay. You've got JSN and Drake. Okay. Then you went with, this all looks reasonable. You got Myers. You've got Holani. And then who is in that final spot for you? AJ Barner. Yeah, nothing looks insane here. As far as correlation goes, Drake May solo, don't have an issue with him being naked in any kind of 5-1 stack. There's certainly a scenario where you get Drake May like 60 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown and limited passing work where he has maybe like 150 passing yards or something like that. And that kind of game script, you could definitely see a scenario where Drake May ends up being in the winning lineup in a 5-1 Seahawks stack. And then on the Seattle side of the game, you've got Walker, Smith, Myers, Holani, Barner. Yeah, I also think it's interesting if you're going to play both running backs from the Seahawks side of the game. It also makes sense from a correlation standpoint that might not have Sam Darnold. So I like how all that looks. Let's see how it simulates. Let's see. Yeah, and good point by Rance, too, is that if you do play both of the defenses, at least for the first 3 minutes of the game, your lineup is going to be looking very good. So if you like looking at yourself winning a bunch of money at the very start of the slate, double defense. 43% sim ROI. That looks pretty solid to me there, JB. I say roll with it. No issues with that lineup. SC. Let's see what you got here for us. JSN. Okay. In the captain. Then you also went with Darnold, Henry. Okay, we haven't built out a Hunter Henry lineup yet. I do like Henry. Jason Myers. Then you went, okay, so double kickers and a defense. This is like a tailor-made lineup for our simulation tools. We love kickers and defenses. So you got both kickers and a defense in here. See how it comes out. And the Seahawks were the defense you went with. So Seahawks, Sam Darnold, Hunter Henry, Jason Myers, Andy Borregales, Seahawks defense. That's also something that makes sense if you're going to play a Seahawks defense is not going, too heavy with the other side of the game. All right, came out a little bit negative, 19.5% sim ROI. So unfortunately, this is the worst lineup that we've had sim out so far on the show, but I don't think it looks terrible, SC. There's a little bit more variance in simulating out some of the single game lineups here. I don't have like a real issue with this lineup. I do wonder if maybe it would come out better with just one of the kickers instead of both, but I don't look at that lineup and think it's unplayable. Bogey. Ooh, Seahawks defense in the captain spot. Let's do it. All right, so Seahawks D. I'll be curious as we read through the rest of this if he made an onslaught. Darnold, JSN. Okay. Then you've got Walker. So yeah, onslaught stack. And if you are going to play a defense in the captain spot or the MVP spot, it's over on FanDuel. I do think you should be making an onslaught stack. One other thing that I think makes sense here, I'm going to shout out Lofty because Lofty is sitting here waiting for his turn to go on in a few minutes. Something that Lofty had mentioned a couple of slates ago is for Showdown, Seahawks defense with Rashid Shaheed. How does Shaheed get the most of his upside? It's with either a kick or a punt return touchdown. You're double dipping. In a scenario where Shaheed returns a touchdown and you have the defense in that lineup, you're going to get both touchdowns there. So that's something else that I think makes sense. If you're going to play the Seahawks defense in the captain spot, makes a lot of sense to have Shaheed in the flex. Also makes sense for it to be an onslaught stack. What else in this lineup? Butte and Cup. Okay. And Cooper Cup. $400 in salary left on the table. Enough to make it a little bit unique. Same with the Seahawks in the captain spot. 12.1%. All right, we're doing good with lineups here. I didn't know how many positive ones we were going to get, but so far you guys have been submitting pretty good lineups. Sean Preston. We've got Mac Hollins in the captain spot. Okay, this will be different. We haven't done one of these yet. Mac Hollins. So Mac Hollins might not project well enough for us for these lineups to come out all that well, but we'll see. Does free up a lot of salary. JSN, May, and Walker. And you got Seahawks defense and Hunter Henry. No, already plugged Henry in. It was, who am I missing? Hollins, JSN, Walker, May, Henry. Oh, the Seahawks defense. $800 in salary left. Okay. If this doesn't come out well, then we'll see what happens if we upgrade one of the spots. Yeah, negative 25% sim ROI. Let's try. Is there something better than the Seahawks defense that fits in here? It might also just be hard to build out well sim lineups in our data with Matt Collins in the captain spot. But let's just make this simple change. Let's go to Cooper Kupp instead. I'm just curious what this does. Is this enough to make it positive? All right, negative 16%. More or less the same. Yeah, Matt Collins just kind of looks like a thin play in the multiplier spot. All right, Jose, let's see who you got here. Oh, he's doing the double dip here. But with Shaheed in the captain spot, I like this. Let's see how this comes out. You've got Shaheed in the captain spot. Only 1% owned in the multiplier. Then you've got Darnold, JSN. Seahawks. I wonder if Seahawks onslaughts are going to be somewhat common, because this is what a lot of your guys' builds are looking like, is 5-1 Seahawks. Hunter Henry is your lone player from the Patriots side of the game. And then you had Kenneth Walker. Let's see how this one comes out. Definitely going to be unique, even though he uses most of the salary. You've got Shaheed at 1% ownership. All right, slightly positive. Nothing crazy, but solid. Cujo. Another Seahawks captain lineup. Let's roll it out. Seahawks in the captain spot. Then you've got JSN, Drake May. Did you get Walker in there too? You did. Okay. And not necessarily surprising. This is also my preference, is if you're going to use 3 out of the 4 spend ups, I do very much prefer Walker, May, and JSN as my guys over Sam Darnold. And considering their ownerships are pretty comparable, 43% for Walker, 38% for Darnold, 46% for May, 39% for JSN. It's not like you're making some sort of massive sacrifice to ownership there either. You've got Sam Darnold only marginally less popular than the other 3 spend ups, and easily my least favorite. You have Butte in here. Then $5,400 left. You had Shaheed. So it looks like this leaves a good amount of salary on the table. $1,200. Not the end of the world for a single game slate, but with Seahawks in the captain spot, that might be a little bit too far off the board here for you, Cujo, because it's the Seahawks in the captain spot. I get your double dipping there with Shaheed, but I think if we upgraded, say like a Butte somewhere, let's see if there's somebody who works here with a better projection. Yeah, we'd still be leaving salary on the table. I think you're close. It just needs to be tinkered with a little bit to make it, closer to positive. All right, here we go. Just a couple minutes left to go here. Another lineup from Boogie. He's going with the Seahawks defense. Also, you guys really like the Seahawks defense in the captain spot, huh? It's been like half of our lineups. And that was one of the first questions that we got when we came in here too, is how do the defenses project? All right. Seahawks defense, are they going to be more popular than this in the captain spot? Or is this just like a small sample size of your guys' lineups? Because the Seahawks are projected for 2% ownership, and they're your guys' favorite player to plug into the captain spot. All right, JSN Darnold. JSN Darnold. Another one, Shaheed. I think I influenced this a little bit too, because I talked about being able to double dip by getting the Seahawks defense and Shaheed. And then every single lineup since I said that has been Seahawks defense and Shaheed in it. Then you got Walker and Henry. Uses every single cent of your available salary. How does this one come out? Yes, slightly positive. So here's one where we did get that a little bit correlation double dip. It's also a 5-1 onslaught stack. Your run back is Hunter Henry, and it came out positive. So nothing to complain about there. I think it looks good. We got a couple of questions in Discord. So I'll read these off, and then we'll turn this over to Lofty and Ben in a couple of minutes. Want to remind you guys also that we have a couple of deals ongoing right now. Here's what we've got. We have our NFL weekly package, 40% off with the promo code defense. So if you guys want to use our simulation tools for the Super Bowl today, sign up for the weekly package, either the core or the max, whichever weekly package you want, and check out with the promo code defense, and you'll get 40% off. And then also, this is the absolute last day to take advantage of the $1 deal for our new NBA props tool. If you are signing up on Stokastic, select the weekly props package, and then enter this promo code PROP, P-R-O-P, all capital letters at checkout, and it'll get you access for just $1. All right, so let's answer these final two questions, and then I'm going to hand this over to Lofty and Ben. Young Metro Boomin, he's got a FanDuel on if he wants us to plug in. Let's do it. It would help if I selected FanDuel instead of Yahoo there. All right, Young Metro Boomin. He is going with Mac Hollins in the MVP spot. Very low owned on FanDuel. New England's defense. All right. Is this going to be a Patriots onslaught? No, not quite. I'm just looking at this lineup. I'd be very surprised if it sims out decently. Kenneth Walker. Then you've got Bobo in this lineup too, who projects we've got Jake Bobo project for 0.64 fantasy points. All right, Hollins, New England defense. I think you're missing a player. Yeah, you're one player short here. I'll just go Drake May. This lineup is not going to sim out well at all, though. Like, this is too much tire left on the table, and just like not good enough. Yeah, like negative 90% sim ROI. Throw the lineup in the trash, Young Metro Boomin. Don't play it. Saints fan. Hi, I'm new to you guys with the Sims tool and just got a question about the Sims. If a $3 entry large field GPP with 50,000 people in the entry, would it be best to use low stakes or marquee? Use marquee for a $3 with 50,000 people. Assuming you're talking about the 20 max $3, use marquee for that. And then a final question here from Larson. Is Trevion Henderson too expensive on FanDuel? So I wouldn't say he's too expensive because his ceiling is really high. It's just his odds of hitting it are very low. At $8,200, he doesn't project well at all. He's a better play on DraftKings than FanDuel if you want to be contrarian. Pretty much anybody can make a case for on a one-game slate. I wouldn't prioritize him, but it's not crazy to build a lineup with Trevion Henderson either. And that is going to do it for me here, guys. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go check out Tails. I'll be posting some more NFL bets there throughout the day. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching all our content this NFL season. And stick around. We've got a couple more hours of coverage, the deeper dive followed by live before lock. So good luck today, guys, and we'll see you back here later. Oh, the video's not here. All right, Lofty and Ben, just come in. The video isn't here.
What did you do?
Well, sometimes you got to improvise.
Why am I just ahead? What?
You're one of the floating heads from Futurama.
The problem is you were in the NFL strategy scene instead of NFL Live Before Lock.
Oh well.
That's all right, man. You did well all season long. You could have just been like, all right, we'll see you guys later. Boom. You know what I mean? Or boom, something like that. No one would have known the difference.
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't even, people probably don't even know about the transition things that are in here. But anyway, guys, Lofty, Ben, enjoy the day. Later.
Later, brother. All right, get out of here. There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Listen, man, sometimes the technical stuff isn't easy on all of us.
Don't I know it?
Hey, good. What is it? Afternoon. Ben and I just did a show at 11 Eastern on the OddsShopper channel, betting everything. And I must say, dude, the anti-correlation Drake May parlay, I just posted it on Tails. It's pretty sweet.
It was a grand success. Yeah, we have plenty of hours till kickoff. You can go check that show out. But if you just want the bets from the show, they're posted over on Tails. And now we get to break down how to win $1 million against about 1 million different people in the DFS streets.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. The other thing too, though, is like you could play for the millie, or you could play some of these other insanely large contests, right? Like the mini max in and of itself, and so many of these, like the play actions, there's a lot of ways to have a good sweat today.
I mean, they have, they've had these most of the year, but they really have them today. They have these 5 maxes that I really like, because it's not like, oh, I have, a single bullet, I have to make all extreme decisions. You have 5 lineups to play, and they have like a $33 5 max, a bunch of them. I love those because they're big enough where if you get it right, you're hitting a big payday, but it's not so insane like the some of the actual biggest tournaments over on DraftKings.
Yeah. So glad to have you guys here. If you don't mind, for the final time this NFL season, take a single second, atone for your sins, and hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel because, we're still here for basketball. I'll be back for baseball, and then football will be here before we know it. It's just the way it goes. But it's been an awesome season hanging out with you guys. So before we get into anything, I think I can speak for Ben when I say appreciate all of you. It's been an awesome year, a whole lot of fun. One of the wilder seasons I think we've seen in a while. Maybe I'm just saying that, and it's just recency bias, but it feels like it's been one of those weird seasons where expected good teams were bad, teams expected to be bad were good, teams expected to be bad were bad, but also had insane millie maker winning tournaments. Like Jacoby Brissett, is there any better example of like a team that lost every single week and somehow you needed 3 of them?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Wilson. How about if the Patriots win today, the Raiders handled the Super Bowl champs no problem in week 1. Remember that. The team with the #1 pick in the draft beat the Super Bowl champs if the Patriots win today. It's just comes full circle. But no, I think for me, the craziest thing, there were a lot of teams, and New England is one of them, where I was not, okay, I didn't see this coming, but I wasn't shocked they were ahead of schedule, but it never stopped. It was like, great. They got through the Chargers. The Chargers are not there yet. Okay, and then they get by, and now they're in the literal Super Bowl. And Seattle was somewhat of the same way, where I was waiting for Darnold to kind of blow up, and he never did. And it's a cool game. And from a DFS standpoint, it's a challenging slate because you don't have. We talked about this on Tuesday, Lofty. You don't have Eagles Chiefs where there's like 10 superstars on these slates. You just simply do not have that this year. No,
and more specifically on this slate, you don't have a lot of sure things. You and I predicted the highest owned guys on Tuesday before we had data. It was not hard to do, right? Like anyone would have guessed that it was going to be in some form or fashion JSN, Walker, May, Darnold, and Stevenson, which is the case. I don't look at any of these guys. JSN clearly is one where you're like, okay, yeah, it's JSN. But this is the type of game where these super chalky guys up top, if Darnold had a 14-point game, or May was at 13, or Ramondre Stevenson ends up not doing anything and not getting into the end zone and not producing in the passing game, but he gets shut down on the ground as well. And guys like Stephon Diggs in a very difficult matchup. It feels like all of these guys are vulnerable outside of JSN just because they move him around so much. It feels like almost everybody is vulnerable to just not having a big game. It doesn't feel like any lineup I build, I just go, man, how do I not have this guy in every single lineup outside of maybe JSN?
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's all relative just because, the floor, and Kenneth Walker's the other example of that, where I think there's a lot of games where he's not overly effective, yet you still end up needing him just because of the potential of this run out. But yeah, not a game I ever thought we'd see. And I still think, and people, listen, everyone will do this. I'll do this. If the Patriots get crushed today, everyone is going to say, yeah, they had this ridiculously easy road, and it turns out they weren't that good. And that may be true. That may be not true. It's one game. But I think they're the mystery team. And I caught the tail end of what Greg was doing, and he said it a couple times, and I'm not shocked by this. the majority of people look to be going with the Seattle onslaughts. You're going to see the 5-1s, you're going to see the 4-2s, and it's going to be slanted to Seattle. So if you think New England wins, or you have a build like that, you're naturally going to be different right off the bat.
Yep. That's what I actually wanted to ask you about, was the idea that they've had this, you see the term Mickey Mouse schedule thrown around a lot, right? And yeah, I guess to some extent you could say they have, but I mentioned this to you when we just did our betting show. I think it's also fair to point out that when they faced a lot of these bad teams, they've shit on them, right? Like, so it's not like they're just coming in and escaping by the skin of their teeth. Sure, that's going to happen to any team. Like, there's a lot of good teams out there that struggled at times against bad teams, but you look at the Miami game, 38-10. They faced the Jets, 42-10. They beat Baltimore in that come from behind mode. They lost to Buffalo, but they were up by a lot. They beat the Giants 33-15. The Jets 27-14. And by the way, that game was never actually competitive. Cleveland 32-13. Tennessee 31-13. Saints 25-19. 42-13 over Carolina. You get my point, right? Like that, you can argue the schedule. That's fine. They have had an easy schedule. They've bludgeoned almost every bad team that they faced this year. If you mention one without mentioning the other, it's just you're being dishonest.
Yeah, I mean, I think people in general get too hung up. Like, you have to get lucky to make it to the Super Bowl. You could also be good. Like, you know how many fluke things happen in a season? All it takes is one hit to a quarterback, blah, blah, blah. There's just so much of that. So I think the Patriots caught a ton of breaks, and they took advantage of all those breaks. No different than most teams that get here. There's certainly no teams, once in a while, Luffy, we have a team where at the beginning of the season, it's like that team's going to be there in the end, barring something, and then they are, because they're that good. These teams are clearly not that, which again makes it, I'm going to try to really embrace this when I build, because I think there's less known quantities here, and you're going to see some weird captains. The total, I think a lot of people think the game's going to be really low scoring, and I'm not sure that's a given, to be honest.
You look at chat right now. A lot of people in chat suggesting that could be the case.
Yeah, and that's, again, could it be the case? Absolutely. But is there a chance that this game is 38-28? I think there is certainly equity to that. And if you build the showdown lineup with that in mind, and you're right, you're going to have a weird-looking lineup in a good way.
I don't know how many times I have to say it either, but because I don't have a strong lean on this, but just if you're going off of what we have in the odds, what these books have, the total's still 45.5.
Healthy. Yeah.
45 total, and 45.5 total is like an average NFL Sunday total, right? I think if you averaged all of the totals out, you're probably talking, right? Like 44, 45.5 around the average number, right? Mid to low 40s, maybe probably mid 40s.
Yeah. With no, again, some of it's weather driven. This is not that, but yeah, I think that's healthy. And it's, Seattle's defense, I think, is a weird, because in chat's even talking about it. I know the Rams saw them multiple times. Seattle's defense is phenomenal. They also can give up production. There's no doubt about that. And we have seen that. So I think a lot of people, including me, expect a sluggish start. I think, how much is Drake May going to be able to run? We talked about that right at the top. We think Seattle's going to do a pretty good job to contain those long runs. And then who, if anybody, can stop JSN? Will Gonzalez have success? Because if somehow they can do that, that changes the slate. If JSN somehow doesn't factor in to a grand, it's just so hard because his floor is so big, Lofty. He might have 6 for 60. You're like, wow, they contained him. If it's a low-scoring game, 12 might be enough, even on the raw points.
Yeah, especially if it's like 5 for 50 and a touchdown.
Oh, but then yes.
Now you're talking 16, and that's a bad game from JSN.
No doubt about it. So I think it's just separating, tell the story. I know we don't do a ton of showdowns together, but that's always my mantra of, when you're looking at the tools, you'll see these lineups that sim out. The two things they have in common, to me, the common thread amongst them, they're not duped, which our sims do a great job. You want to minimize dupes, but they also tell a story. It could be a weird story, but there is looks like a Seattle defense just blankets them, double running backs, things like that to make those leverage points stand out.
Well, let's pull up the tools and see what we've got to work with
West,
today.
appreciate you. Look at a nice comment from the family. Appreciate you guys. You guys make this show work. The show is not done without chat. So everyone that shows up atones for their sins every Sunday. You guys, you make the difference. So thanks for sticking with us all year.
That's why we do these shows live and not pre-recorded. You know,
exactly.
It's a lot more fun when you have the community vibe going. So I appreciate you guys. And one more thing to throw out to you before I just ran the Sims. I'm going to pull it up in a second. When Ben and I did the show on Tuesday, we never anticipated that people were looking to get a weekly sub and asking if there were discounts for the last game, the last hurrah. And we had, I don't know how many people ask if we had any discounts, right? Any promos for the Super Bowl. We didn't intend on it, but we got together afterwards and we're like, all right, yeah, if people want to dive in for the final act for Super Bowl 60 for the NFL season, we got you covered. Links down there, 40% off any NFL weekly. So core or max, essentially how many sims you can run, or how large the field is that you can generate in the contest generator. But you're getting every single tool for NFL for today, 40% off the weekly. So you know what? If you're sitting around saying, you know what, this is the last time, this is the last game that we're gonna have for another 7 months or whatever it may be, I'm gonna grab the tools. Well, now you got 40% off. 40% off with the link down below. That'll auto load the promo code defense in for you. And yeah, I didn't know there was going to be this much demand for it, but apparently there is, man. And people they love this sport as much as you and I do. And they figure, look, give me one more week, one more game. This is it.
A better time. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if there's a slate to get right, the Super Bowl would be on the short list, because if you get it right today, no matter what you're playing, whether you're playing the quarter arcade all the way up to the high stakes, you're going to be making some serious money.
Yeah, man. And, for the final time this year, shout out to the winners this NFL season. We had 3 milli winners in the NFL streets this year, which, I mean, it's amazing to think that, considering there aren't many millies, that 3 of them had the Stokastic avatar. It's just fantastic stuff. It proves that the tools we use and talk about here work. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. So 40% off with that link down below if you want to check it out. Let's get into it, man. Ran the Sims. Here we are. This is where I want to start with you before we kind of dissect all of this. Right? At Flex, your exposures look like this. Drake May, Sam Darnold, Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. At Captain, your exposures look like this. Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Drake May, Cooper Kupp, Ramondre Stevenson. Is there anything that jumps off the page to you? The answer to me is a resounding yes, there is.
I don't know if I have no idea what you're going to say. There is one thing. It's that I don't think Sam Darnold's going to be a popular captain. And I kind of find that interesting. If you want to go to Seattle, most people are going to take one of the 2 big weapons. If they don't, they're going to take Kupp or Shaheed as that against the grain Seattle secondary option, and they'll spend up elsewhere. Darnold still makes the offense go at the end of the day. He just showed he could do it. Obviously, he's got no mobility, but maybe that's a way to be different within a Seattle onslaught, is to take Darnold at captain and then pair like that, because I don't think many people are going to look to do that, to be honest, and the Sims are confirming it.
So I'm with you. I'm going to give you one that jumps off to me, though. We are way underweight on JSN.
JSN. I mean,
now I ran this with 2 uniques. I will let me run it with 0 uniques just to see if anything changes. Not really, right? Like 16% exposure at captain compared to close to 30% captain ownership projected. And then 33%, we're still 7% below the field at the flex as well. I did not expect this, man. This really surprised me. I'm not even totally opposed to it. This is a showdown slate. I wouldn't be surprised if JSN is even more popular than we have him projected to be right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with my original position. If I'm locking someone today, it's going to be Kenneth Walker and not JSN. If I had to lock a guy, it would be Kenneth Walker. Again, let's be clear. Anything could happen. Kenneth Walker's cheaper, he controls his own destiny in the sense that he will get the touches. He's a running back. And I don't think he fails even if he has a bad game, because I think he can get to 3 or 4 receptions on top of everything else.
Yeah, I was honestly just surprised by it. Now, to your point, we're getting well over the field at captain to Kenneth Walker, and we're essentially with the field at the flex. If you look at the guys that we're getting most over the field to at flex, there's no significant leverage anywhere. By the way, I do like getting the Hunter Henry here. I think Hunter Henry makes sense at the captain spot. This is actually a guy, Ben, I might boost a little bit more than this, because I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning of this show. And I don't even know if you agree with me, which if you don't, even better. Obviously, Kenneth Walker looks good. JSN, those two guys, we know who they are. I mean, I've known who Kenneth Walker was all season long, and I consistently lost money on it. Every week, I'm like, there's no way that they could keep him tied down again. I know Charbonnet's fine, but Kenneth Walker's the man. And then every single week he gets out-touched by Zach Charbonnet, and it took an injury, a season-ending injury, to get that. Seriously, though, Walker is like, we know who he is. We know he's that good. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out the way I would have liked through the majority of the regular season. But I can't help but look at captain exposures and say, this is a spot where there's not a single person that I feel supremely confident in that they are the guy. Like, there's no late season Bijan Robinson, right? There was a time late in the year where if you weren't playing Bijan Robinson at captain, you were probably in a lot of trouble on those showdown games, you know? Puka Nacua being another example. Like, that guy just every single time. Now, I know you could arguably put JSN in the same conversation. I get it. He is up there for sure. But there were certain players this year where it was just like, play them at captain, get 50% at captain, Christian McCaffrey in some of those games, you know, and then just figure something else out after that. I don't think this is that type of day. Yes, in all likelihood, and we can pull up the tools in the data hub, in all likelihood, one of Kenneth Walker or JSN, you know, end up being the optimal captain. I get that, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as it has been on some of these other showdown slates, which gets me real interested in getting a little bit weird with guys like Hunter Henry and such.
Yeah, listen, I'm JSN. It's not a talent thing, but it's just, I think the makeup of this game and even that team, like, the defenses are very, very legitimate, both theirs and the opponents. Christian McCaffrey, like, if he was on this slate with the walking wounded Niners, we would be having a totally different conversation. First of all, he would be in a different price range. Like, he would be even more expensive. And the floor legitimately for a guy like that is different than these guys. So I look at this game, there is no one like that. The Patriots side, I don't even know how you feel good about, honestly, anyone. Not that there aren't guys I like.
Not a single player.
You cannot tell me there's anyone on the Patriots that is getting there, barring something weird. Like, Stevenson could be shut down completely by the front. Drake May's been getting there with his legs. Like, he hasn't exactly been tearing it up through the air by any stretch.
If he didn't have that rushing touchdown against Denver, that's a terrible game.
It's nothing. And Diggs to Henry to Booty, like, these guys are good players and they're going to factor in, but none of them are secure. So you can wipe out the Patriots and security right off the bat.
Yeah. And SC, to your point, SC, so Patriots have yet to see someone like JSN. It's crazy how Seattle always gets them open. Just no, you're 100% right. I'm not arguing that at all. Like I said, I still expect it to be JSN or Kenneth. Like, that's what it should be. All I'm saying is that I don't think it's as black and white as it is on a lot of these other slates, right? There are plenty of other times where it's just so easy for us to be like, oh no, this is the guy. This is the guy. I can show you this too. Maybe this will put things in perspective. So let's pull this up. If you are a Sims user, by the way, or you have the tools, make sure that you're using our data hub, because this has some amazing stuff that can help guide your decisions. So captain optimal rates. This kind of explains exactly what I'm saying, man. And sometimes you're better at putting this into word, articulating this than I am. But JSN, Kenneth Walker, optimal captain rate, right? It equals about 50%, which means 50% of the time, one of those guys is not going to be the optimal captain. It's a lot. That's literally half of the time. If you sim this game out, you play this game 1,000 times, 500 of those times, neither of those guys are the optimal captain. But then look at the other captain optimal rates. There's nobody above 9%. There's not a single player in the double digits. So yeah, on one hand you go, all right, so then why would I want to play those guys? Sure. But it also means that if you're playing a showdown slate with millions of dollars up for grabs, that there are opportunities out there. It's going to be hard to hit it for sure. But there's not a single guy other than JSN and Kenneth Walker with an optimal captain rate above 9%, which to me is just, you don't see that on slates like this.
So the way I think about that, because I think you explained it really well, is step one is you got to talk about the first two. You already did that. So you're talking about 50-50 coin toss. But it's not, okay, let's remove them from the pie and now make a new pie. There is no overwhelming favorite. There's no one. It's just other. And
what
so
would
when
Bijan
you're talking
be?
about
What would Bijan be in a regular season game here? 50%?
Easily. I mean, but even with that, sometimes if you remove Bijan, then you've got like, I don't want to get into the Falcons personnel, but like Drake London or something, where he's taking the new pie chart and he's 50%.
Yeah.
That does not exist. Once you go there, if you doled up, if you remove JSN and Walker and you actually made try to visualize this, a pie chart, each slice would be so minuscule because to add up to the new 100%, even the most popular guy, you would obviously double things, is like 18%. And that just shows that if it's not one of the big two Seattle players, no matter who the optimal captain is, it's not going to be a popular take. Nine out of 10 people in your tournament will not have it.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. Talking about when it gets redistributed.
Exactly.
It look like?
Exactly. The redistribution is such a wide scope that is really interesting and we haven't talked about a quarterback. That's also a rarity.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Drake May's 9%, Sam Darnold's 5%, and then you look at ownership on this, guys. I'm telling you, you want to run the Sims, but sometimes looking at this data hub, whether it's the top stacks tool or whether it's this top single game and showdown tool, where you see or you're able to kind of visualize all of this stuff, then you can start making decisions based off of what we actually know, not just ownership, but optimal rates. And that's what you're seeing here, is that they're all pretty low. And you have some positive leverage to Stevenson at captain. You have slight positive leverage to guys like Darnold, to Cooper Kupp, right? To a lot of these guys, Ben, slightly to Hunter Henry. It's just like, that's why I think Hunter Henry's a guy that I'd be more than willing to sprinkle in a little bit at captain. Would I sprinkle in some Cooper Kupp? Maybe. Who would your contrarian captains be? Knowing that ownership wise, there are only three with double-digit ownership. It's JSN at 28, it's Kenneth Walker at 20, and then Drake May all the way down at 11, so he's in a tier of his own. Then you fall down to an 8% Ramondre Stevenson at captain. This is a unique one.
Yeah, and so once you get past that, you're almost choosing best available because you're not picking up more ownership. I'm going to give you, again, I said it on the betting show, I think it's a clear, specific type of game. But in a low-scoring, grinded-out game, I think A.J. Barner has a role to play. First of all, and I'm going to just keep saying this, A.J. Barner is their sneak guy. So if it gets to the 1-inch line, if there's pass interference in the end zone, and they decide to do their version of the tush push, it will not be Sam Darnold, it'll be Barner. So he could score on the ground. Obviously, he's not a high target guy, but he is on the field basically all the time. If it's a low-scoring game and there's only a couple touchdowns to distribute, it could just be him. And then guys like Kenneth Walker and JSN, they can get there in the flex, but you wouldn't want them at captain then. And so to me, that's the low-scoring guy. And then you've got the other side where I think you take a Patriot like Kayshon Boutte and hope that he does what he did to Stingley. He catches a 40-yard touchdown. I don't think that's likely, but to me, those are the other paths for these low percentage guys.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a really, really tough game, but I prefer it this way. We had a comment earlier talking about saying, I hate to say it. I can't find it. Oh, yeah. Hate to say it from RM Covers, but it's a Henderson game today. You could never convince me to play or bet Trevion Henderson.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know you. No, you never would put out a ticket like weeks in advance advocating for Trevion Henderson. That's not you at all.
I'll say what I said on the betting show. This is not even like a pro Henderson stance. It is a pro uncertainty stance, right? I think that's a fair way to put it. In the Super Bowl with these super efficient lines everywhere, it's a pro uncertainty stance. And I think the same thing applies to DFS as it does on the 50-1 ticket that I placed earlier last week. It's not, I think Henderson's going to lead the game in rushing yards, even though I bet it, because I think the odds were I think it was a plus EV bet. The same thing for DFS. Do I think that Trevion Henderson is going to outtouch Stevenson most of the time this game is played? No, I don't. But I also don't know what the backfield split is going to look like. And when I have no idea what the backfield split is going to look like, and everyone is essentially making assumptions and determining what it looks like based off of one game in bad weather against a good defense in Denver, then I don't really have a choice. I feel like I don't have a choice but to take the opposite side of that. And the cool thing about DFS is I don't have to go one way or the other in extremes. I can just get a little bit over the field on Trevion Henderson and still have the exposure I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, there are not that many guys typically, and I know things change in a season, but when you look at production, most people, it's somewhat, barring injuries, stable. There aren't many guys where it's like at one point in the season, in the recent past too, had a real part, and now they're just like an afterthought. Like Trevion Henderson had some games. He had some real games this year.
With some big runs.
Big time runs. This is what I'm saying. It's not like we're betting. There are a couple people, and I get it, like Arroyo and some of these guys where it's like they flashed here and there, but for the most part, they were just not a factor for the season. George Halani, not a factor. He is now because of an injury. Totally different. Trevion Henderson, nothing has changed in the personnel. Nothing has happened in that backfield. Maybe he's been phased out for blocking. Maybe he's been phased out for other reasons. Or maybe that in the past couple of games, there's just been some wacky stuff, particularly in Denver, and he gets back to having a, 6 to 8 carry game. His rushing prop is 19.5. So if you're telling me he's getting over 5 carries, first of all, you should bet the over there. And second of all, that's enough for me to put him in some lineups.
Me too. I look at it like this. We've all played, not just you, but like what Rance said too, right there. I see so many familiar faces that have been with us, not just this season, but for multiple years at this point. We've done enough showdown to know that the approach we're basically advocating for, and you can do whatever you want, obviously, but it's not that any of us think Henderson's going to have a big game. It's that we're willing to find out.
So this is an important question, particularly in showdown and in life, honestly, when you're betting. If you don't say, will he have a big game or not? Say he will. Absolutely. And you're right. What does it look like? And for him, it's massive, potentially. That's the difference. Sometimes you're like, man, if this and this happens, and it's like, okay, you get it right. And the guy has 2 catches for 23 yards. And it's like, you got a miracle thing right, and you didn't even get paid off. How is that helpful? This guy, I think we'd all agree, probability, take that all out. If the guy got loose, home run, slate winning upside. If you get the 1 in 100, 1 in 50, 1 in 20, I don't know what that ratio is, but we know the ceiling is really good with a guy like Henderson because he's fast.
That's all it is, man.
It's like Shaheed, but Shaheed obviously plays a different role, but no one can say that Shaheed on one touch. If he had 1 touch today, Shaheed could still be in the optimal because that's just the way he is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Shaheed could do it. You could do it in special teams too in a low scoring game. And that's all that matters. So yeah, I'm with you. By the way, I must point this out. Envious. What is that? Enviously, whatever. Envious.
Lyrics.
Shout out to the
no,
lurkers.
right.
Yes. We know you're in there. Crawl out of your holes, my friend. Say hello in chat.
Say hi.
It's the
We're
final
friendly
show of the
people.
season. We love the lurkers. Without the lurkers, this show doesn't exist either. But many lurkers in there that typically don't participate in chat, but they're here. And you know what? They're here routinely. You know, I know that YouTube had like a year-end recap where you could see your stats, who you watch the most and stuff. I had people tweeting me and DMing me they were like top 1%, top 0.1% of viewers. And I never saw their name in the chat, but they're here.
Shadow people. I like that better. I know lurkers is a cool name. Shadow people.
Great.
That's fantastic.
Who came up with that one first?
Common pennies.
Yeah, they're the shadow people. We love the shadow people.
Pete Wheeler's a lurker. I respect it. I just saw a comment tonight. Oh, who are you expecting to go get the most touches behind Walker? I think it has to be Holani at this point. He had a real role. He was catching passes. I was pretty surprised. I don't know if his targets will look like that. Yeah, 4 catches.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Let me pull this up, right? So
look at all these lurkers. I love this. I love seeing new names in
shadow
chat.
People.
We got a
shadow
bunch
people.
of them. Yeah, shadow people. We got Bart. And Hermit is here. Chris is a lurker. David, first time here. Welcome aboard, man. That's great stuff.
I mean, Hermit, is there any more suitable name for a lurker than Hermit?
If I could be a lurker on the show, I would do it. That makes it very difficult. That's tough.
Reginald White, lurker and learning. Yeah, see what I mean? You guys are fantastic. Appreciate it. So if you go into, I'm not going to get into captain exposure for Henderson and for Holani, although I will ask you quickly while I sort this and pull it up for everyone on the screen. Are you on board with getting to any Henderson captain exposure? I hadn't asked you that yet.
Am I on board with it? I think you could do that, but I'm not sure it's super necessary, honestly, just because of you would really need a roll, because there's a real chance that you are drawing to 1 or 2 where the percentage, if you take all those points on the day, I think it might come from like 1 or 2 touches when you look at it. And in that case, there's a chance that he gets there on a point per dollar basis, but captain still might be one of the, the Walkers or the JSNs, and you just want him as the leverage piece. But I haven't built like that yet. No.
Neither have I, but I like him at flex for sure. Goody, shout out to the opposite of lurkers. Yeah, you're the glue guys, brother. You're a glue guy. Yeah. But yeah, Henderson right now, flex ownership. Sorry. Yeah, I'm surprised. We're actually over the field to Trevion Henderson, which is kind of sweet. I didn't think that would be the case. Usually the tools, especially when the projections and the props are as low as they are, usually someone like him kind of gets flushed out, but that's not happening. Run it on, look at this, Ben. Run it with 2 uniques. You're getting 10% end. That's not bad. I'd probably bump it to I'd be okay getting 20% Henderson at flex. You think that's too much?
I'd be in the 10 to 20. Yeah, I think, listen, I take like a 20 lineup sample to kind of picture it, because I like that for my set. And 4 of 20, 3 of 20 for 15%, something like that. That seems pretty reasonable.
It's crazy though. Holani's getting 3x the ownership projection right now as Henderson. 3x.
And that is based off last game. And I get it, but it is just based off last game.
Yeah. Because one of them played more snaps. One of them had more touches. It's so hard to say what's going to happen today though, man. I know you don't know, and I certainly don't know, but that's what I like about it.
Nope. But again, I have the lineups will tell different stories. I'm going to have some lineups that are implied that the Patriots absolutely roll. I'm going to have some lineups that imply that Seattle shuts them out.
We're going to look through the lineups. We're going to look through the lineups in a second. I posted this one, the tails, last week at 50-1. Henderson most rushing yards plus 5,000. Man, it was just crazy. That's it. Those odds got nuked. But you and I, however, on the betting show today, we posted an can we talk about this for a second? I think everyone will appreciate this. Plus, we still have to talk about Drake May from a DFS perspective. A little anti-correlation rushing parlay for Drake May. Over 6.5 rushing attempts, under 37. I got it at 37.5. I had to pay a little bit more on ProfitX, but they weren't limiting me. So obviously, right, on a peer-to-peer, but that was helpful. Plus 550 on DraftKings. FanDuel won't even let you parlay it. This is a fun one, man. And I think there are multiple ways that this could actually play out and win. And given that you're taking the anti-correlation with under rushing yards and over rushing attempts, you get odds that would traditionally be nowhere close to this, up to around plus 550. This is a fun one. And this is why we bet the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I love this. This is a weird one, but I do think there's scenarios where Drake May is active on the ground. He's been active on the ground, and Seattle just doesn't allow what turned into, 9 or 12 or 15-yard gains. They turn into 2 to 4-yard gains, and he has a couple that go nowhere. And before you know it, he has 6 or 8 carries, and it's only translated into 20 yards. I don't think that that's that crazy. Is it likely? No. But is it more likely than the odds? Well, that's the only question you ask yourself no matter what you're betting. And to me, the answer is yes.
Yeah, this is fun. Bart's on board. It's
a fun bet. I'm tailing that. And again, go to tails. You just press the blue button on your screen, and it tails it for you. So
yeah, it's awesome. Tails.bet, baby. Follow me. Follow Ben. Follow everybody. Come check the leaderboards out. I'm actually, you want to see, can I show you something funny, man?
You're on the leaderboard?
I think for NBA.
Well, that's because I know why. You can tell the people why too, but you can thank the great data behind the people, because the Stokastic Prop tool is out. I'm sure a lot of you are using it, and I know you're using it because you told me you were using it and that you've been killing it, and now you're on the leaderboard. So congratulations.
We're 10-2 since I started posting bets with the prop tool.
Nice little start.
I mean, look, the heaters don't last, but you got to ride the wave until it crashes, right? And that's what we're going to do. Plus, these a lot of these are plus money bets, Ben. A lot of these are like plus 130s, plus 120s. These aren't your minus 250 bets. I want to be clear. When using a win-loss record, it's very easy to conceal the truth. In this case, I'm concealing it, but in the opposite direction, unintentionally. So, yeah, man, actually very, very fun. I'm loving this tool because it's taking the stochastic projections, which we already know we have the best guys in the business, and then it's finding bets for us with the stochastic projections. We already know our guys on the data team are as good as it gets. And they know, seriously, they know things happening before the books do. And I'm not making that up. They've been so sharp and accurate with the injury news that doesn't break till later in the day. And we're projecting opposite of the books. It's awesome, man. I can't say more about it. There were good things about it.
There's no doubt. And you guys can check it out. Luff, if you want to, if you have the graphic, I know you're there. Look at this. He's producing $1. And this is the last day. So if you're excited about this, I know everyone is somewhat sad that football's going away, but that just means that me and Lofty get to talk a lot of basketball here on Stokastic. And with this prop tool, it makes it that easier. Check it out for a week for a single $1. We want to get it in the hands of our most loyal people to showcase the value. As simple as that. And I've been using it every night, streamlining my process. The link is in the description. It'll load the code in, and you'll be good for the entire week.
Yeah, man. Check it out. $1 for the entirety of the week. You guys who use the tools already know that the guys on the projections, I don't have to tell you that much. Now you get to use it to bet. So check this out, right? And by the way, Spags and Eric coming up after this, taking you up till 2 o'clock. Drake May, we're getting a lot at flex. We are not getting a lot of Drake May. Well, 8% at captain. I understand it because of the rushing upside. He's not one of my favorite plays today. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold, I look at a guy like Sam Darnold with just I don't, it's so tough to say because he doesn't have the rushing upside. I feel like his floor is okay, but it's not the greatest spot. I don't love quarterbacks in this game, but you mentioned earlier that if you play this for it to shoot out, then clearly, which I know you're going to be doing in a bunch of lineups, then clearly you are looking at both of these guys as integral parts for you today.
Yeah, I think those are definitely scenarios for different reasons. Certainly Darnold, he makes the offense go. And if they have a huge game and they're not defensive turnovers, he's still going to have to manufacture a lot. Drake May's a little tougher because, again, it's been, I don't mean this as a negative, but it's been some smoke and mirrors when you look at his production. He has really isolated more points than a typical quarterback has. He doesn't have an alpha, where this is not like, well, it's going to Jamar Chase 15 times, so you know that if Drake May gets there, Chase gets there. There's nobody. If I tell you Drake May gets there today, who does that make you play? Nobody. Like, it helps Henry maybe a little bit, it helps Diggs, but it's no given that they get there because he could run. He could throw it to these Mac Hollins type secondary players. I do think you're going to see a decent amount relative to what you would think of 5-man Seattle stacks with just Drake May on the other side.
I actually don't. So if you're saying you think that's going to be popular, then I don't love it. But I was thinking that would be a way to not get popular. Maybe you're right. Maybe people will just run naked Drake May and 5-1 Seattles.
I think they will.
I'm looking at the most duped lineups right now. I ran the Sims with a 50,000 field, and the most duped lineups, if you look right now, almost all of them are 5-1 Seattle or 4-2 Seattle. Like the large majority of them are 4-2 or 5-1 Seattle. And yep. I guess one of the reasons I can see that is, you've got Seattle defense will pop up a decent amount, but you're talking about Walker and JSN, two pretty obvious plays there. Sam Darnold, Seahawks D, Barner being another one. On the Patriots side, and this is something you mentioned right at the beginning, there's not really anybody there that stands out. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, but when you're going to the Patriots against a rock-solid defense in Seattle, granted, both defenses are good, but I think people are overlooking the Patriots, whereas they know Seattle's defense is great. I don't want to say the jury's still out on the Patriots because I do believe this defense is excellent, but they haven't faced, really many teams like the Seattle offense. But you talk about, all right, outside of Hunter Henry, who I think we both agree, solid play today, might look a little overpriced. I actually like him more as a result. You have Stephon Diggs, who, yeah, he's the number one in this offense, but he's not a true number one. He's not a Puka. He's not a JS. He's not even an AJ Brown, He's no Jamar Chase. He's nowhere close to any of those guys, not only in production, but in opportunity either. So you have him at a price point that is, in my opinion, way too close to guys like Kenneth Walker, even Ramondre Stevenson. And then you're getting down to Kayshon Boutte. You're talking about Mac Hollins, who's only, been back for one game. And then Trevion Henderson, Austin Hooper, Kyle Williams, Demario Douglas. Yeah, there's the kind of secondary and then tertiary guys. That one's for you. In like Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed and AJ Barner, whereas the two staples are JSN and Walker. But with New England, they don't even have a clear every week guy. And I think that's one of the reasons that you're going to see less of the 4-2 New England and 5-1 New England is because if you pull up the props, and I did this on Friday with Greg, every single one of them, outside of Diggs, who's at like 44, every single one of them is either in the mid-20s to the mid-30s in receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, this is the most elementary concept. But if you build with Seattle onslaughts and you look at the lineup, you're going to say, this looks pretty damn nice. If you build with New England captain or New England stacks, you're going to look at your lineup and you're going to be like, man, this is rough. And that's always a good check to know you're on the right track, honestly. Because if you don't want to do it, no one else does either. And so just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean you need to force in crazy plays, but there is no one on New England that's going to make you feel super comfortable with the build. And Mike just mentioned, first of all, proud lurker and a super chat. Appreciate it. Can't find a positive ROI lineup with Henderson and captain. I've played the best one I have, but a few more open spots. Go for it. Yeah, it might just be a little too aggressive, where he's projected for him to be the captain. I would much rather take, and I will do this, I'm going to make some 5-1 Seattle stacks, use May on the other side, and then boot a Seahawk and slide in Trevion Henderson for a 4-2 with just Henderson and May. I love that build.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I was laughing from our friend Clayton Laffey. Will there be a banquet when you accept your Producer of the Year award?
Mm-hmm. Very good. You don't even know what goes on behind the.
That was.
Could you hear the applause?
Yeah, I said that was all you.
Okay, I couldn't hear it on the end.
I'm even making the thumbnails for our betting videos now, which I think look quite.
Made the graphic for this show. It's
not this one, for our betting one.
Yeah, I made the one for this one.
Oh yeah.
You and me, like I said, you don't know what's going on here. That's why I need to win the million. So, get the graphics back. But
common pennies has to be a breakfast banquet. Yeah, is there anything better than a good brunch?
So first non-NFL Sunday. I went to brunch last Sunday. It was fantastic.
That's the best. Give me an eggs Benedict.
That's what I had, a crab cake, eggs Benedict. Little crab cake with eggs. It was fantastic.
So I like Mac Hollins today because, again, I think there's some uncertainty there. He's been back for one game, but he's been a guy that they've looked towards in the past. I'll be honest. I think my favorite pass catcher, though, from New England today is Hunter Henry. And outside of JSN, I know you're going to say your favorite pass catcher is A.J. Barner for the Seattle Seahawks.
That's true. I mean, I think Barner's one of the few Seahawks that almost feels like a Patriot in that people are not super comfortable with him. And I think it's because of one game. And I'm not worried about what happened in the last game.
Me neither. But yeah, to your point earlier, Henderson and those guys at captain, I don't really think it's necessary, but necessary? I don't know how much Kyle Williams I want to get to. Jake Bobo's coming off a touchdown game, but he's scarcely used. You get down to some of these other guys, these are going to be 150s. You're not playing these guys in single entry. Okay, that's just, I don't really think I need to say much more about guys like Cam Akers or Robbie Oots and those type of players. If they end up beating me, then you know what? I just didn't deserve to win today. Austin Hooper makes sense. Kayshon Boutte is another one, just because he has that deep threat ability. And you've mentioned the Stingley thing a lot. He has beaten good coverage multiple times this year. Like, he'll just be completely silent. He'll be like one of the shadow people from this here show. And then the same way they popped up into chat today, he'll pop up on the box score and then he'll crawl back into his cavernous location.
Cavernous. Hooper or Bobo is Hooper for me. I don't like Bobo. I think he will be, again, he's not going to be popular by any stretch, but people are going to play him because of last week, and that was just a fluke occurrence.
Yeah. I'm not sold on Jake Bobo. I think he has like 3 catches on the year. Gray Ghost, Seahawks captain. Honestly, I could see either defense at captain. Everyone talks about the Seahawks defense at captain, and I get it. But I think the Patriots defense at captain is not too far-fetched. I don't want to buy too much into I'm not buying into the narrative. Like, oh no, Darnold is going to implode again. Well, he hasn't done so yet, right? Stands to reason that he probably won't. But also, we're only like 8 weeks removed from a 4-interception game against the Rams. Like, there are still games where Sam Darnold is not right. You can get pressure if you're New England. So strip sacks, pick six, whatever it may be, the possibility is there. Now with the Seattle defense, you have the additional element of just saying Rashid Shaheed can break one at any given time. If this does end up being a low-scoring game, 13-10 type game, certainly not out of the realm of possibilities, both of these defenses to me are very viable. And, it all comes down to, are they getting owned? Well, not really. I mean, Patriots 1% projected ownership, Seahawks 2%. We're over the field on both. Do we have a lot? No, but I have 6.5% combined exposure to both of those at the captain spot. Fine with that. I have 20% Seahawks at the flex, 17% Patriots. So we're essentially with the field, slightly over on the Patriots, slightly under on the Seahawks. I'm never opposed to that in a Super Bowl like this with two very good defenses. And last thing I'll say on this, Ben, and I think this applies to the kickers equally. If it's a lower scoring game that's played in between the 20s, you have a Patriots team that people are sleeping on, and maybe they should be sleeping on them. But the answer is right now we don't actually know. If both of these defenses play the way that they have throughout this postseason, you could absolutely be looking at a very low scoring game, despite the total being 45.5 right now. You could see both kickers, Myers and Borregales, being very busy, and it could come down to the optimal lineup. You needing multiple pieces of the defense and kicker.
It's just a different game script, and I do think Seattle's defense probably will get more love just because of the way they play. And Drake, again, both these quarterbacks put the ball on the ground too. Everyone is talking about, and I get it, the Darnold implosion game. He also could just have a mistake or two, not an implosion game, but like he could fumble. He could throw a pick or something else, or he doesn't, and Kenneth Walker fumbles, or a receiver fumbles, or there's a tip ball. Like, it doesn't have to be, Darnold has an awful game for the Patriots defense to have a couple of chances at a huge opportunity. So I think you look to that. Obviously the kickers, you don't have to worry, the poor guy, both him and I think it's Lutz for the Broncos, they were kicking in non-kickable conditions in the last game. Like, clearly they won't be doing that here. And I think both coaches will be I'm trying to play a little psychologist here. I think both coaches would be pretty content early in the game taking points if you're on the margins. I actually think that both teams are in that mindset of, let's put 3 on the board. If you have 4th and 4, 4th and 3 from like the 30 in the first quarter, I would bet that they will kick. I don't always say that.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Now, 4th and 2 from the 2, like 4th and goal from the 2, totally different.
Yeah, I think they'll open it up.
Exactly. Now it's like, how often in this matchup for either team are you getting to the 2? But this is an interesting one. Letters at the eyes. It seems like no one's on a shootout, so I think that's the route I'm going. So here's where I have a difficult time with that. We could say no one's on the shootout, but still, even if they don't think it's going to be a shootout, you're typically like hand builders specifically. People still don't want to play a lot of defense and kicker, particularly in the same lineup. So you may think in your head that you're not in the shootout, but then when it comes time to actually building the lineup, how many people are truly building with like double defense and a kicker? And I think the answer is that's still going to be less than you expect.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the shootout, the biggest thing that it does for you is that by definition, there's more points to go around, which means that there are going to be people that have good outputs that are not optimal. That's when I think of crazy shootout lineups. I think of like, I can omit a guy, not because I don't like him, not because I don't think he's going to play good, just because the permutation boxes out a guy who gets 13 sometimes. That's just sometimes the nature of it.
Shout out to Almost Made. Thank you, sir. Appreciate all you guys. It's been a really awesome season. We'll be back again. Don't go anywhere. Still NBA with some amazing hosts.
I'll be on Tails tomorrow.
What's that?
I said we'll both be dropping bets on Tails tomorrow. Yep. You got NBA stuff coming out tomorrow. We're not going anywhere.
I'll be back for baseball too. Baseball strategy show, MLB strategy show. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, opening day's on my birthday this year. So that should be fun. The old March 26th opening day. The earliest, I think it's like the earliest opening day ever or something like that.
I never know. The start of baseball confuses me. Like, the Dodgers are like 4-0, and then teams are playing in the Grapefruit League for like 2 weeks, but the Dodgers games counted. It makes absolutely no sense sometimes what goes on.
Jerry Wick came by to see how Lavi's doing getting through the Super Bowl show. We're good, brother. This is a very fun show. But yeah, anything we missed, because we try and cover as much as we can. There's always going to be certain lineups or combos or conversations, context that we missed. That's why Eric and Chris are coming up next. Chris, that's odd. Eric,
I was gonna say, what the hell is going on here? Okay,
are coming up next. Who's that guy? And they're going to take you all the way up to lock. That's fuck am I talking about? They're going to take you up to 2 o'clock because this is not live before lock, even though it's
also true. No better way to go out. You know, we always like to that last show. We like to show you what we're about here. I think we captured it.
We go out the way we come in, man. That's exactly what happened to start the show as well, except not my fault.
Yep, and that's why we finish it. But no, it's been a blast. We're not going anywhere, and I'm literally not going anywhere because I'm gonna watch the show right after this with the fellas. And let's see what better way around Stokastic to end the season, kind of how we started it with a Millie winner. I hope we see an avatar up top today taking down that big prize, and when you do. Obviously, you guys know where to find us. We want to hear about it. Hit us on Twitter, and let's just end the season strong. It's been an awesome one.
Yeah, we love you all, including the shadow people in their in their cold, dark dwellings, crawling out on hands and knees to say hello. They're good people. I mean, if it doesn't sound like I'm saying they're good people.
They're mutants, but that's okay. I don't know why they're crawling, but they could just be a little off the grid, like the people in Vegas that live under the streets or whatever.
It's funny because I lurk on everything I watch too. Like I'm generally I'm a lurker. So
yeah, I don't like I said, if I could be a lurker on my own show, I would, but I just can't.
We need you all. Anyway, Eric, Greg started on the strategy show here, not the live before lock. So I'm gonna flip this over to something not a video, just so you know, okay? Not the video. There is no video. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you shortly. It's been an amazing season. If I don't see you for a while, well, we'll see you back here next September. And don't forget, if you want to get the tools, 40% off for any core or max weekly package for today. This is by popular demand. And the tool, the NBA tool that's been absolutely crushing for us. Shit, dude, this is my first 4 days using it on a limited FanDuel account. $1, link in the description for the entire week. Come check that out. We will see you back here for the next one. As always, good luck, my friends.
And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock. It is the last one of the year. It is Super Bowl 60. I'm Eric Lindquist, and I'm joined, as I have been every Sunday besides one, because, went home and disappeared into the abyss. Chris Spags, my dude, is hanging out with us yet again. Go follow him at Chris Spags, and if you could, hit that like button for us, and go follow Splash Play over on the YouTubes, because not only is Chris doing amazing work in the NFL, but the NBA as well, putting together his own projections, using those in conjunction with Stokastic projections, and he's just entertaining as fuck. How you doing, my dude?
Oh, I appreciate the kind words. Nice to get the positive vibes in the air for the last show of the year. Kitty's already crashing into.
Hell yeah!
Just come up, dog. Please sit here. Okay, fine. Thank you. It's better, I guess, it's a given for now until the puppet comes out later. Then Kitty's going to be a real nuisance. Glad to get one more show in with you here. I think it'll be a fun one. It's a slate where obviously the showdown, I think it's all about uniqueness. I'm curious to hear your takes today because I feel like there's a slate where I don't know, man. I don't know what we're supposed to do. I don't know. The field's giving me like the chat right now. Everybody hates the Patriots in this game. And like, I hate the Patriots too. I hated Drake May before all of you. And now I have to play this fucker. I got to play him and just hope that he hits. Is that what we're doing to me?
Well, we're going to be doing something akin to that. I'm with you. I mean, if you go on X, just to talk about this from a higher level perspective, a lower level perspective, everybody's on Seattle -4.5 that I know. Every single person that I've talked to, everybody in the industry, every show that I've watched, every piece of content I've consumed has no respect whatsoever coming in for New England because, they played such a cream puff regular season. They didn't have to play a competent offense the entire postseason. This is ridiculous. They also played in freezing cold weather and snow blizzards and a bunch of other shit. And I think it's going to be a competitive football game. Again, I don't have a play on the spread. I might end up taking New England money line when it's all said and done, but everybody in every piece of content hates New England. You are dead on with that.
Yeah, the projections too, not huge fans of New England either, especially, building the more New England dominant teams. And like we talked about a lot, I've done a lot of showdown videos this year, in particular with Lofty. Eric, I know knows showdown as well as anybody out there, but it's one of those things where like a lot of times what wins in showdown is just, playing contrarian, playing different, playing the underdog in a 5-1 onslaught stack. It does hit more often than people realize. It's one of those things today where New England, tough team to get the stack right all year long, even when Drake May's hit. Who's he passing the ball to? Sometimes it's Butte, sometimes it's Diggs, sometimes it's Pop Douglas, sometimes it's Mac Hollins. But I think for, how it looks today, New England, I don't know. I'm also curious too, like, what are the casuals going to play? Like, because they love New England, right?
That's all I'm trying to figure out. So I'm in the Pocket Max Championship. It's that first edition that they ended up putting out. I've qualified for the MLB one, ended up doing pretty well in that, got a top 10. And then now I'm in the Pocket Max, 400 entries, 100K to first. So I've got a pretty good shot here at putting something together to make a little bit of coin today. And I'm going to be using the tools. I'm going to be using the projections. I'm going to be doing everything I can to try to figure out what is going to be more of the casual build, because a lot of those, it's nice to be in a live final that isn't a bunch of pros as well, which should be a little bit helpful, but also feel like no matter what I do, I know I'm going to be building against a Seattle 4-2, 5-1. Like, I'm going to be going against that build with that lineup. I don't know if I go 3-3 balanced. I don't know if I lean into more kickers, but there's lots of ways we can do things. We're going to break it all down for you on this program, just like we have every Sunday. Obviously, this will be showdown, so a little bit different variations. We'll talk you through the ins and outs of it, just like Lofty and Bed just admirably did, like Greg did earlier this morning as well. But 40% off the NFL weekly packages with promo code defense. That's rocking here for today. You have an opportunity to get all of the projections, all of the goodness that I'm talking about. Plus, we're going to get actives and actives, which has this Arroyo piece, which I think actually matters to some extent, just because it seems like there's some major hype train coming in on a guy who doesn't really play football. That's pretty wild. And I'll throw this in as well, just as we get started. $1 with the prop, or to be able to check out the new NBA prop tool. It's been awesome. It's immediately been put into my process. You can immediately put it in your process too for $1. Greg has been doing the live after lock show. You can check out all the goodness that we've got going for that here with that tool. But the weekly package prop, just $1 down at the link below. Take advantage of that here. And we are going to start right now. Let's do the damn thing, baby. It is NFL showdown time. We've got New England. We got Seattle. As I said, Seattle 4.5-point favorites. Pretty wide little spread here, but we go position by position and we start breaking things down. And I think this is probably going to be one of the other stands that I have. I think I'm going to end up a lot lower on Sam Darnold than the field. I'm playing 150 and playing 20 max. And then obviously I've got my big $1,000 lineup that I need to figure out what I want to do with. But Drake May specifically, he has the rushing equity. I am on Sam Darnold over 5.5 rushing yards. It's actually my favorite prop. The amount of man defense that New England's played, right around 28%, would have been 8th most in the regular season. It's bumped up to 36%, which relative to the entire NFL would be 2nd in man defense. So that creates a couple of running lanes, but you best believe Sam Darnold doesn't have the same rushing equity that a Drake May does. And as you look at the top of the board here, Spags, if you're building out one lineup, who are you clicking on between May and Darnold?
I'm going to go through my exposures right now just so I could say which one I'm actually playing more. I am playing more Darnold in the flex. Drake may have a little bit more at captain, but I think for Darnold, there's been some data out there, and I really think one of the big things, I'll give a shout out to a guy, Cody Main. I've done a show with before on Splash Play. Good, great data guy. He's really good at showdown stuff. He had some interesting stuff this week that I'll probably be citing throughout the video. But one thing that he had said was that the amount of dupes that from the data that he's seeing out there across, check the industry, much like Stokastic does, was saying that basically it seems like your JSN captain is going to be underplayed with Darnold not in the flex. Like people are not putting Darnold in enough, probably because they want to play Drake more. Obviously, Drake May has, the big rushing upside. I would be surprised if he doesn't get a goal line rush in this game, whether it turns into a touchdown or not. And certainly, if he does some things like he did, to win the game the other week, where calls an audible off a play, bootlegs in a way that was completely unexpected. He's got like that kind of upside where he can make that happen. Darnold doesn't. But I do think if you believe in JSN, if you believe in Seattle, putting the beat down here, even if you want to, knowing that's going to be pretty chalky, I think that playing JSN with Darnold's a pretty appealing way to do that. Fading JSN and playing Darnold, probably not the most appealing to me. I feel like I got enough Drake May. I was thinking I might load up on him just to try to fade my own personal emotional, hedging against what's been going on all year. But, I think Darnold's just a more appealing play if you think Seattle's going to win and you think JSN's going to show up too, which I don't know if the sim believes that.
Christian Gonzalez is a thing, my friend. I've been a stand of his forever. Again, there are going to be a lot of doubles. I can't imagine that you watched what they did to the Rams with JSN, putting him in the backfield, putting him in motion, doing amazing things to create space. There were some genius play designs. I'm not sure if anybody saw some of the breakdowns. NFL Live was doing a lot of them the entire week, but setting him up like opposite Kenneth Walker and creating space and finding ways to create space. Just like in the NBA, creating space for yourself is one of the most important, impactful things you can do. And then be an efficient shooter, of course, when you actually hoist it. But in the NFL, creating space and creating the illusion of one thing happening and doing another is such an important part. Like, coaching matters so much. In the NFL, it's not even funny. You get so many opportunities with a guy like JSN to do so many things because he's a Swiss Army knife. You can put him in the slot. You can move him out wide. You can obviously put him in the backfield now. I find it difficult to believe that he won't get there. But do I need to bring Sam Darnold along for the ride when he's 200 less than Drake May? Drake May, 35.5, 37.5. Those have kind of been the prevailing numbers in the rushing yards. I mean, that's drastically different than 5.5, even though I like the over of that. I'm not defending it as like a major talking point there. That's going to be a difference of 3 in terms of fantasy projection there. And then you're at 2.5 here because Sam Darnold obviously has the more inflated touchdown props. They're favored. So I don't see any way around getting to more Drake May than Sam Darnold, just the way that I'm going to be building. If ownership's going to be somewhat comparable, right? Like 48-38. I'm just on a completely different island, it would appear, where I'm right around 24% Sam Darnold right now, and I'm pretty happy to make that kind of a pretty large stand. We always play quarterbacks in Showdown, but I think JSN's just such a bigger priority for me as a spend up relative to Darnold that I'm okay leaving him off.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is a tough price tag with Darnold. And like you mentioned, being a $200 difference between the two of them is pretty tough to swallow. But I think that's sort of what makes the game theory play. If you are playing like a Seattle asking build, especially, like, you should probably go to Darnold more, I think, is what I'm sort of reading into things right now, where, the 5-1 build, I know Ben and Lofty talked about it a little bit. Wouldn't be surprising if you saw 5-1 builds, which normally the 1 in a 5-1 would be a receiver, a guy that sort of benefits from the game, the team playing from behind kind of situation. I would think that one, Patriot in a 5-1 build with 5 Seahawks would potentially be Drake May a lot for people. So I think going to Darnold there, because you probably can't afford Darnold and Drake May and get the rest of the players people want. I don't know. I just feel like Darnold's going to be underplayed in both builds that expect the Patriots to lose. I think Darnold will get underplayed in builds where the Patriots expect to have success, because if they are playing ahead, or if Darnold even messes up early, sees ghosts early, but digs out of it and then has to play from behind, Darnold's going to sling it. And I also think too, like, I'm not worried about Christian Gonzalez. I feel like, I don't know, this is going to be a hot take to start. I feel like he's overrated as a corner. Like, there really aren't many true shutdown corners left.
Yeah, he tore his ACL and he has not been the same player since, for what it's worth. I'm with you, but he is a big physical dude who is not your typical guy out there covering JSN.
But you're talking about JSN, who's like 3.9 yards per out run this year versus man, 4.1 like versus zone. It's like, he's been just such a monster. And you mentioned it too, like moving him around and being creative about it. Like, the one thing I would say that, and this is totally not a data point, but like, if you want it, we got an hour to talk about one game here.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. Go on a diatribe. Take your, what's the word I'm looking for? Time. Take your time. There you go.
Yeah. It's not even a diatribe thing as much as like would be me putting on my tinfoil hat, digging through the state security files and all that, see what's out there. Clint Kubiak's kind of been occupied the last couple of weeks now. Like, he's interviewing for jobs, apparently gonna be the Raiders coach, it looks like. I think that for how it is for these situations, sometimes the distraction can be a thing. New England, nobody's going to be distracted. They've been locked in this entire time. Nobody's going anywhere. The team is a new staff. McDaniel's not getting any head coaching opportunities anytime soon. But for Clint Kubiak, guy who's going to be this genius mind that has done a great job in Seattle this year, did a great job last year for a Saints team that should not have been as good at times as they were. Maybe he's a little bit distracted. Maybe you don't get JSN as creative, I think would be the one thing that spooks you on Darnold than that prism. And is the New England team that's creating a lot of pressure with their front four, in particular in the playoffs. Like, that's been the downfall of all the QBs they've faced so far. Maybe things kind of meet there where Sam Darnold then does see that pressure and, they're not schemed as well as they could be and everything falls apart. But I don't want to play that way today. Like, I really think the EV isn't playing Patriots more. I'm kind of conceptually with you on that. But, I still want to see Seattle win. I feel like if I go with a third of my laps, assuming Patriots success, Patriot wins, I think I'm okay with it. But I believe more in Darnold than you do, I think, is really the main thing.
No. It's not that I don't believe in Darnold. I do believe in Darnold. I think the Minnesota Vikings massively fucked up everything in my life and probably made me the evil, cynical person that I've become over the last year. I just truly look at Sam Darnold as one of those guys that I don't think he has to do a ton. Like, JSN is so good. And there's so many ways where this game ends up being like JSN, couple of big plays. He gets over his 100-yard marker. Rashid Shaheed, big play would be another way that it burns me. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring up here. We've got the captain ownership here at the top. Drake May at 11%, Sam Darnold at 5.5%. It's a lot easier for me to get close to the Sam Darnold captain type ownership here, purely because I know what JSN is going to become, especially in small field. I know what, the Kenneth Walker ownership is going to be in small field. And obviously I'm very focused in on that for me personally today, but in a large field perspective, if we're going to get 2-1 here, Drake May to Sam Darnold, how much Sam Darnold and the captain are you looking at? Because I think he's a very interesting guy to stack up. And I kind of like the Patriots defense along with him in a script where maybe things aren't going very well for him and he has to chuck it around the lot way more than what's being projected. I think he's going to be very, very slept on in the captain, especially in small field.
So with the way the sim worked out for me before the show, I was so low on JSN with my exposure that I had to really boost him up. And that cost me getting Darnold at captain. But because I'm getting a little more Darnold in the flex than the field, I feel like I'm okay making that trade-off of getting less of him at captain, still getting what I want to get, which is more JSN, getting enough Kenneth Walker, and then, still spreading around the ownership for the rest of the guys, with Drake May being, the top option besides that. So for Darnold at captain, I'm actually only getting 1% right now across like about 200 lineups I'm putting in this for this slate, and Fields at 5%. So look, I get it. I do think if you're looking for uniqueness on the slate, I think the most unique take you'd have, you got the chat right now talking about the Sam Darnold seeing ghosts thing, and then we got people defending him now too about it. So got both sides represent all sides of the aisle.
Why do we franchise tag him? I get it would have been an expensive 1 year, but a lot of teams would have got $40 million Sam Darnold for 1 year. I mean, we just let him walk for nothing. We got nothing out of it. Now we have to watch him play in the freaking Super Bowl as a massive favorite that everybody's taking, Chris. Like, this is not fair to me, okay? I'm a better person than this.
I think there was a bit of an assumption that his last year was something of a mirage. And I think even too, there was something that came out recently from the O'Connell and then the GM getting fired kind of fallout stuff, where it's like, O'Connell was okay losing Darnold. He actually had advocated for Seattle to sign him and talked to Seattle's GM and gave him like a positive review. So like, he was totally cool losing Darnold as well, because they thought, I guess the rumor was that he had thought that they would add another QB alongside McCarthy, and that would be the thing. But then because he didn't like, because KOC didn't like Aaron Rodgers, then he and the GM had some discord, and then that's what happened. But yeah, like for Darnold, look, he moved on from your team. We've all moved on from the Vikings, I think. So less said, the better. For Darnold, though,
Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold on the same football team at the tail end of last year. What a time to be alive.
The Vikings would, I would say, I don't know if they would have won the NFC, but they would have been in that final 4 NFC teams, I think, if they had.
I know, Chris Fags. Isn't it great?
We're all good fun.
Oh my God. $5 super. Oh, go ahead.
Just real fast. I believe in Darnold is really the main thing here to kind of put a bow in it. So like, I'm willing to be above the field there. Captain, I just think like, I don't see how he hits a captain. Like, is Cooper Kupp catching 2? I don't know. Can that even happen? Like, the probability that's got to be sub 5.
The probability of what sub 5?
Like Cooper Kupp catching 2 touchdowns. That's kind of thing you need for Darnold to hit a captain.
That would be just pain and suffering personified, especially for Rams fans, which actually I couldn't wish anything worse on. Love Puka Nacua throwing Rams fans under the bus the other day, being like, yeah, it's not like we play home games anyway. By the way, anybody who's been to SoFi, they know that's true. Here we are. $5 super chat from Anthony Hunt, 8422. Really appreciate this on our last show of the day. Hit that like button. Are obviously Travion Henderson or Henry sneaky captain plays. There are a couple of sneaky captain plays that we'll get into, and a lot of them I think do exist at the running back position. We've got right now some interesting stuff as far as our exposures go. I'm over here in the captain, kind of organized by what we've got, but exposure right now for some of these captains specifically, it's weird. There it goes. We've got ourselves Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to be by far the guy that I'm the most nervous about, but our simulated player ROI really has Kenneth Walker in the captain. If we assume Seattle just runs all over them or gets up early, we've seen lots of times that they haven't even had to utilize JSN and Sam Darnold, and it's become Kenneth Walker plus Seattle defense, and you're just compromising the entire field. You've got them on cuckold duty. But I look at a pretty interesting thing with Travion Henderson. He's not on the field like at all. And I've been beating the drum for this for like 2.5 months on this program. As soon as the week 14 bye hit for New England, I was just all in Ramondre Stevenson almost every single slate. I think there was one week where it burned me. That first one, week 15, you had the Travion Henderson ridiculous long touchdown game. It sucked. And we just kept riding Stevenson, and we kept riding Stevenson. And guess what? Mike Vrabel has kept riding Stevenson. I think he's probably going to be a guy that I'll mix into a little bit of flex, but if Travion Henderson ends up being optimal, I'm just not going to win Showdown today. That's just what it is. I'm not going to have any shares of that. But Henry, Seattle, despite the fact that Seattle's an incredible defense, they have a little bit of a tight end. I'm not going to call it a funnel because they're so good that it's basically like, well, we have to throw to the tight end as a quarterback. You have to get it out quickly because you got Witherspoon, you got these guys that are just absolutely insane on both sides for the Seahawks. And I don't know what to tell you other than like Seattle's got the best defense in football. Witherspoon's the best quarterback in football. As long as Eamon Warry's okay, like his ankle's okay after the ding up in practice they had earlier, like that would be one plus you could potentially run into for anybody in the slot, be it Diggs, be it Henry out of, in tight formation. But like, I like Hunter Henry today. He's probably my favorite New England pass catcher by a pretty substantial margin.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Henry, I see what you're saying. You know, the EPA data does back out what you're talking about with Hunter Henry and the matchup against Seattle. 0.17 EPA allowed there. 0.2 EPA allowed to the slot. That's definitely the weak spot for the Seattle defense compared to out wide. They gave up a flat 0 EPA. And that's pretty hard to do given the fact that out wide, you are getting some of your most variable plays, your deep shots and all that. Running backs to negative 0.15 EPA allowed on running back targets. So taking tight ends here, not a crazy move. But Travion, I just don't really see. I mean, he could break one touchdown on, one play kind of thing, and that could happen. But Ramondre, they were relying on so much, like 27 instead of touches last week for him. While he was so inefficient, like you could have taken a look at Travion there and tried to get that right. They didn't. So I think for Ramondre, that role is locked in. Travion, I think at the flex, take that shot at captain. I would not play a single share of Travion.
Yep. I'll mix in a little bit in the flex, just, in the event that there is that injury or something of that nature. But I get worried. The name recognition and the fact that we have so much casual money in these large field tournaments today. My mom called me for advice. Like my mom's like, what are you playing today? I'm like, watch my show, Mom. One time you call me during my show every damn day. Why can't you just watch one for anyway? I love my mom, but we're looking at some casual money coming into this. I bet Henderson gets clicked enough where I'm pretty okay being underneath the field in such ways. But thank you so much for the super chat. We had one more to bring up, and I think this is obviously kind of what we're doing with this entire show. If you're watching this after the fact, I know a lot of people don't end up watching this specific show live just because we're doing it so many hours early. Enjoy your parties, drive safely, be responsible. Letter aftery. Is it letters aftery or letter Saftery? Hopefully I helped you out there. $5.
Letters after I.
Oh, that's better. That's those.
So maybe like her name's like JK or something.
Oh, that's funny. What's the angle no one is thinking of? I said shootout, but the boys don't think that angle helps, as people could have good games but not be optimal. The angle nobody's thinking about is 5-1 Patriots. Nobody's playing 5-1 Patriots. Absolutely no one is playing 5-1 Patriots. The idea that all these sharp people that I know are just jamming Seattle down our throats, I can't get out of my head just how much disrespect is coming in on the New England side of things. And the more that comes in, the more I'm just willing to lean into the 4-2s, 5-1s, even though I think Seattle wins the game. Like, I'm not an idiot. I think Seattle's the better football team, but I can't believe everybody thinks they're that much better than New England, who hasn't really played in this kind of an environment in a month and a half, basically. It's been a month and a half since they played a game that wasn't like 20 degrees, wind blowing, snow falling, whatever it might be. And I think their offense is going to perform a little bit better than expected, even against an amazing, amazing Seattle defense. But what would be the 5-1? Because for me, I think Patriots defense with like May, Stevenson, running it down that way and just saying, hey, New England's defense really generates pressure the way that we saw against 3 inferior football teams, I'd say, in the AFC Championship game. But there's no doubt Patriots defense was on an epic heater in these playoffs, didn't allow anything whatsoever, and got after every single quarterback. If they get after Sam Darnold, we've seen that Sam Darnold against the Rams with my Vikings last year, Sam Darnold with the Jets against the Patriots when they were at their high powers. Like, we've seen moments of Sam Darnold just getting eviscerated. And I think just leaning all the way into that with JSN as the one piece on Seattle makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think that's probably your most unique angle, though I would say, honestly, for a showdown slate, we were talking, what, 500K entries? I forget what it is today. You still might get JSN as a bring back and like a New England thing. So you might have to dig down a little bit deeper for one of those lineups that wins even less frequently, but probably hits 1%. Like when it does, you win all the money kind of things. But I'm with you, like conceptually, like, yeah, the 5-1 builds for the Patriots, that's going to be underplayed. And like we talked about earlier in the video, like showdown stuff like that, that's been a thing that sharp players have done for literal years. It's just playing 5-1s as underdogs that, just area it's not covered by a showdown, but it's still a very, realistic thing that can happen when you're looking at things probabilistically. So yeah, Patriots 5-1, I would say that. I would also say too, just like, frankly, not playing Drake May as your one Patriot, I think is a pretty big one. I'm with you that, the 5-1 build where it's like Ramondre is the one kind of driving things appeals to me too. And Drake May could still make it in that situation. But I think, like we talked about before, playing Darnold over Drake May in certain, Seattle heavy builds, I think in particular, I would favor that. I don't know. The big thing for uniqueness to me is just the salary stuff. Like, you can talk about Cody Main before. He had some data where he's talking about the lineups that have 5 or less dupes across multiples. I forgot how many he had looked at, but Super Bowl slates, showdown stuff. It was like the average salary was 47,250 or something like that, like 47,250. So it was like some really crazy low number like that. The most realistic way to get unique is just play all your lineups under 48K, 47.5. You really want to go for the gusto 47, and then you're just going to be on an island relatively. I think like we could talk the football stuff and obviously try to come up with the unique things. Realistically, salary for this, like, going to be your most unique thing you could do, I think, generally.
Yeah, we're playing DFS. We're playing a salary cap game, and people like to fill out their salaries. They don't want to leave projection on the table. They leave the projection on the table. Oh my God, it's a disaster. So I think that's a great point as well. Double defense, double kicker. There's ways that we can get different on this specific slate, but I pulled up running back as we keep moving along these positions, and Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, your two main focal points of each team. Kenneth Walker, it's been just an absolute epic run out. Trying to figure out what Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker would be doing in this game would actually be kind of a stone cold disaster for everybody in line. We have George Halani, who, it's still somebody who's going to mix in a little bit here and there, specifically passing game type situations. Maybe that's an interesting 4-2-5-1 Patriots type build as well, where Halani ends up out there a little bit more. But we've got Kenneth Walker flat in terms right now of what I'm looking at in terms of exposure. Stevenson, pretty flat as well. Are you going to be holding hands with the field as much as what it appears that the Sims have us doing with Walker and Stevenson? And then, well, Captain Walker is definitely a stand by the Sims.
Yeah, I'm getting above the field on Walker. He's in half my lineups in the flex. At Captain, I have Walker at 23%, so a little bit above the field there as well. I'm cool with those numbers. I think to me, he feels like he should be in about 75% of my lineups. You can make the case, I think, that he should be in more, but I still wanted to play some, like we talked about New England kicks ass builds, in case I have to just be sad today if that happens. I think that especially if Drake May wins MVP, you guys will know, if you're watching this video, know at home, if that happens, I'll be like, motherfucker. It won't affect me for too long, but I'll be like, I can't fucking believe this. And I'll be sad for Jaden Daniels. I'll be sad for America. But I think for how it looks for these guys at running back in particular, Walker is your best play. Like, I just don't think he fails in this spot no matter what. Seems pretty likely he gets one touchdown. You mentioned Halani. It was weird usage for him in that last game where he was in a lot of the third and longs. Kind of surprised to see that, given the fact that Walker's been decent in the pass game and was ahead of Charbonnet in the pass game. He also got one red zone touch, and then they went back to Walker, didn't look at Halani again. They weren't in the goal line area too often after that. But basically, Halani had one of the first, I think, red zone opportunities they had, and then they just didn't go back to him. So I would guess that role is not there for him unless something gets weird with Kenneth Walker. But the pass game stuff on PPR sites, like for Halani, that's going to be possibly a thing that can work out. The one concern I'd have for Halani is that Halani and Mac Hollins, your two cash game guys that are getting his value, they pop up in some of your most dupe lineups as well. So I would say try to avoid that if you can, putting those two together. But I think Halani's not a bad value, especially if God forbid anything happened to Walker. Like, then you have all the opportunity if Seattle wins this game and Walker got hurt in the first quarter, second quarter kind of thing.
Yeah, and you're going to see less ownership on Henderson doing the exact same thing. So when I was talking about Henderson with the whole flex thing and the captain thing, it's like Henderson, I think, just if you were to have something happen to Stevenson, it'd be a smash. If Alani ends up being the main guy there, yeah, he's a little bit cheaper there. He's already got a little bit better projection than what we've got here on Henderson, which is just wild to say out loud, but like it is what it is. Alani's going to be on the field, I think, a little bit more than Henderson in most neutral, normal types game scripts. Like if this plays being a competitive game, if it gets a little bit wonky, you're probably not seeing Henderson mixed in whatsoever. You could see George Holani play a lot more than expected if it somehow gets wonky where they're down a score or two late, and you could end up seeing a lot more Holani. And Kenneth Walker, he's always been a frustrating guy in DFS because he'll just nuke in completely random spots, and then you play him at chalk and your life is over. But Kenneth Walker, that's kind of what's nice about the Sims giving you more as the captain. In fact, you saw this a little bit earlier. My highest owned captain that I've got going, period, today, as I kind of remove everybody here from the equation, 26%. And I'm actually going to keep him as kind of like my big stand on the captain side of things for this slate. Jackson Smith-Njigba is pulling a ton of ownership, rightfully so. But there's going to be a lot more. You talk about leaving salary on the table, flip-flop some of that. It's going to be a lot of salary you're leaving on the table just in some of those JSN that you turn into Kenneth Walker lineups and change nothing else, Spags.
Yes. Also, before we get to this, I got to read this chat. I'm sorry. This guy here, PJ Sprague, absolutely over the moon that everybody from this company is on Walker. I love it because I'm not on him. Keep telling everybody that Walker's play, please. I need to just explain one thing about DFS. It's really important. Betting too, same thing. The chalk becomes the chalk because they're the best plays on a slate. So Kenneth Walker, a guy whose entire inhibitor this year was his teammate that now has a torn ACL, that guy being out, that's the big thing that matters there. Whether you think Seattle wins or not, it's like foolish to go in with this like puff your chest out and going like, oh, like I'm so glad that everybody thinks this guy who had a ton of touches, has scored touchdowns, has like really been great this year, even with limited work. Again, I lost money on Kenneth Walker when he was popping up as chalk too. I then was also like, don't play this guy a couple weeks in DFS. Got that right. But it's fucking insane to go like, oh, you idiots are like, what? They're 5-point favorites. And he's the guy who's got all the work, whether he hits or not. Like that's just bad process and bad attitude too. I don't like it.
I love you.
You're going to get one more in, right?
It was actually much tamer than I expected it to be. I thought we were going to get really scorched earth because you've seen me. I'll get into my, you can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp. And I'll just let it rip. But you know what? That's why Chris Spags is who he is. Go follow him over at Splash Play. Hit that like button for Chris Spags. And also follow him over on X at Chris Spags. Makes my life easy because it's the same as at Eric Lindquist. It's almost like people should use their names that way. But lots of other things to talk about here. Anything else at running back? Again, Holani, I'm about at the field on. I don't have anything interesting to say other than I do think he's interesting in some of those like 4-2 New England type builds that I am focused on, that I am entertaining for that small field contest. And that's just, I don't have a ton else to add about Henderson. It's a spot where he is not projected to play a lot. He has not played a lot in these playoffs. And at the tail end of, but New England was still playing towards that 1 seed, trying to get the 1 seed. And hey, getting the 2 seed was a they got the 2 seed. That was a big deal to be able to get those first 2 games at home rather than having something else happen there. New England, I get it. You might like Henderson as a prospect. I sure did. I thought he should have been playing more earlier in the year, but you play to what they've been doing. And there's no question Stevenson is going to dominate this backfield.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unless the fumble issues rear their ugly head or something weird like that, it's Travion Henderson's shot. Not to jinx you. I'm playing Ramondre enough. I don't feel like it's an actual jinx that I want to have happen. I guess I am higher on Travion. I have 14% Travion, and the field's only at 7, and I'm getting Ramondre under the field right now. So I suppose maybe I am team Travion today, but like realistically, that's the way that gets unique and saves you some salary. I'm with you. Ramondre is just safely ahead of Travion. I suppose if we're counting Jack Westover as an RB, which I believe he is technically positionally, I did get 1% of him as well. But I think for Travion, it's, again, a slate where we just need to get randomness to go in our favor. We want to be not duped if possible to achieve the highest EV we can if we have a lineup that's even close. So like playing a guy like Travion, I think has somewhat more appeal for those kind of lineups. But I agree with you fully. Like Ramondre is a better play. I'd be surprised if Travion got more than 5 touches. And I do think if he does get even 5 touches, it's almost like an outlier event. Like read into teams more week to week in the playoffs and what they do. And like seeing Ramondre be just shy of 30 intended touches. Well, again, being awful. Like he averaged like 3 yards per carry last week, was so bad. They just didn't move away from him because they trust him. They want him to be that guy. And it's not going to change unless something weird happens. Ramondre gets hurt. Ramondre fumbles. Travion breaks one big play, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100% with you. 100% in line with you there. I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be the thing that defines our slate. One of the things that could define our slate is our treatment of Jackson Smith-Njigba. And one more time, just before we jump on to wide receiver, we're going position by position, 40% off, promo code defense. This is the day to take advantage of it. Huge tournaments on DraftKings, huge tournaments on FanDuel. We have all the projections for you. We have the Sims tool, which I'm sharing here on screen. We have the single lineup sim, which is worth its weight in gold. And I've been utilizing all morning, the tail end of this entire week. I've been utilizing that, trying to get an idea of what I wanted to do, how I wanted to build, what the field's going to do in that Pocket Max championship that I am hopefully going to take down for 100K. Hey, 1 in 400 shot at it. That'd be fun. And hey, if I dupe 1 or 2 people in the process, such is life. But 40% off NFL weekly packages, promo code defense.
What is this Pocket Max championship? Like, it sounds like a really good EV for you being 1 out of 400 with 100K up top, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So they ran it for MLB, and it, back in the day, I couldn't play anything under, what was it, like $3 or whatever it was on DK. And then all the contests showed back up and I could play in the mini max again. I could play in everything. And there's this Pocket Max championship that there was like this 25-cent qualifier for in NFL and ended up, in MLB, it was first there and ended up playing in that. It was like 1 in 200 for that one. And then ended up getting one of the qualifying spots in like week 2 of NFL this year, which was, it's like $1,000 ticket that you end up winning. And yeah, it's like just all small dollar, $3 or less queues to be able to get into this contest. So yeah, I've got 1 ticket in it, 400 contests. I didn't see how many people had multiple tickets because that does kind of change the equation. I probably should go back and do the math on that. But yeah, I'm just trying to focus on a small field idea. And that's where Jackson Smith-Njigba is the most nerve-wracking thing ever, because I knew whether I wanted to or not, he was not going to be the captain for that lineup. He's the most comfortable captain. And one of the things that is difficult about Showdown, if you have ever played it before, if this is your first time, well, here we go. Super Bowl, Jackson Smith-Njigba. We all recognize how good of a fantasy performer he is. He is PFF's second-graded wide receiver. He, EPA per play, out of control that Chris cited earlier. The guy is a freak. He's the best wide receiver Ohio State's had in forever, and they have had a lot of insanely good. Maybe Chris Olave is starting to come to life, but that's neither here nor there. Jackson Smith-Njigba, JSN, 28.5% ownership that we've currently got for him in the captain, 40% ownership here. That is over 66% of lineups. That is going to be over 2/3 of the field. They're going to be utilizing JSN in some capacity in their lineups today. Spags, how do we uniquely and not stupidly use Jackson Smith-Njigba today?
I mean, I think again, it comes down to the salary. Like if you're playing 49K plus playing your George Holani, your Mac Hollins with JSN, you're screwed. You're going to be duped 50 times over, I think, no matter what. So that's the big part to me. I still think you can find ways to get unique for it. I mean, I went over the field on JSN. I didn't like the sim was going under. Obviously, never a thing for me where like I want to question the sim, but on this kind of slate in particular, just knowing that, market-based data that's so strong like Stokastic that's going to drive some people's lineups tonight, just trying to get different things that you believe in, like JSN for me is one of them. That said, one thing that popped up, running data across the industry, cash game lineups this week, you're going to have JSN and Kenneth Walker in pretty much all of your optimal lineups. So I do think fading one of those guys, probably one of your better pathways to getting to first place. And like game theory wise, you get how that works out. But for just what the matchup is, for what the situation is, and frankly, usage too, again, in the playoffs, like we talked about with Ramondre, for JSN, there was a drive last time out for Seattle where they were one of their goal to go possessions. They just had JSN target in the red zone, target again. Like they just forced the ball until they got a touchdown. That's the kind of thing that was not necessarily the case in the regular season, but now these kind of do or die spots, they're force feeding JSN the ball when there was a touchdown on the line there. And even that spot, it was, I think they got bumped back to the 14-yard line. He ended up scoring a touchdown anyway. So for JSN, I just don't want to be under on him. That said, the sim does put you under on him naturally. So that's a little bit scary to me. I think for JSN, to me, you want to be close to the field at least. I got 10% more at captain, and I'm just with the field at the flex. Actually, a little bit, like I guess 1% lower than the field in the flex, but getting so much more at captain, like that's my stand. Is like I really want to try to use the chalk, want to use JSN, want to use Walker, and then if I'm not playing those guys in lineups where they're at captain or prominently featured in a lineup, then I'm going Patriots heavy and hoping they win somehow. Sort of what my overall kind of angle was for this one.
Simulated player ROI. We have so much positive equity coming in on Rashid Shaheed and Cooper Kupp as captains specifically. This is kind of a tough one for me because if you have like a middling game from JSN and you bring Sam Darnold into the equation, Rashid Shaheed or Cooper Kupp, they have a lot of utility, allow you to play Seattle defense plus Drake May, plus probably a Diggs or Stevenson, and it probably is going to work out pretty good for you. And we'll get into like looking at all of the lineups together here at the very tail end of this program. I just know that Greg was building all of the lineups out with you guys ahead of time. I know that on the last show, that's kind of what Lofty and Ben were focused in on a little bit. We're getting like granular with some of these individual players. Do you have a preference between Shaheed or Kupp? Because I have a strong preference between the two today.
I'm going to guess your preference is Shaheed for the potential double dipping of a return.
Correct.
Touchdown.
You are beyond correct, but yes, continue on. Cooper Kupp is nearly 10% higher owned in the flex, and that makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense to me when there is the actual double dip that you were looking for, especially just Seattle combinations. Like, if people aren't going to lean into that and they're just going to lean into Cooper Kupp individually, totally fine. Understand that. But like, I want to have so much Shaheed plus Seattle defense. He's one of the most dynamic playmakers in football. And do I think it's a high likelihood of happening? Another return touchdown like we saw him kicking off the San Francisco game with? No, I don't. But I don't think people are utilizing the combination enough. And Cooper Kupp at 26%. I get it. He was on the field quite a bit. 78% of the snaps, 74% of the snaps, even in a blowout win going up there. Actually played a little bit more than JSN in that 49ers game because they didn't need to have JSN on the field whatsoever. But I don't know. This feels like a spot where Shaheed got ramped up to 57% of snaps last game. Feels like they kind of put him in bubble wrap to unleash him here in a spot where there are going to be one or two plays that are going to be deep shots. And I don't see that being designed for Cooper Kupp, Chris Spags.
No, honestly, that's a good point. I mean, the way that I view the Seattle secondary pieces at receiver, where, Barner, Barner, obviously JSN, very far from a secondary piece. Barner, Shaheed, and Kupp. I think they're all the same guy. Like, I think treating them as such is probably your best way to do it. I got 25% Kupp, so he's my highest, but both Shaheed and Barner I'm at 20% on. So like, I like the way that got for me exposure wise. I think your point though is pretty well made. And I think too, if you're scheming up these gimmicky kind of plays you get in a Super Bowl, the stuff that a team leaves in their playbook, the entire year and doesn't bust out to a spot like this, you want to go to the really fast guy, and that's Shaheed. That's absolutely not going to be Cooper Kupp. Maybe it's Cooper Kupp throwing a touchdown to somebody or something like that. But I think for Shaheed, you give him like a jet sweep kind of out of nowhere thing, or like a flea flicker sweep kind of thing. The really gimmicky shit that you sometimes see in the Super Bowl, that's absolutely more a Shaheed bag. And you add the return TD potential too. It does make some sense to at least be mindful to not be overexposed, I think, again, to like one of them and make sure you're getting Shaheed. And for Barner, I know Ben and Lofty talked about it a decent amount, but like the tush push stuff, that's going to be Barner most likely in those, goal to go kind of situations where you're in 1 yard or closer. Might still be Kenneth Walker, but it could, be Barner getting that tush push. So, for Shaheed and Barner, they both have these like little pluses that Cooper Kupp does not have. So yeah, it does feel when you point it out like that. I mean, the projection definitely favors Kupp. He's higher than Barner, who's higher than Shaheed. But I think if you're thinking about it the way that, Eric, I think highlighted really well there, those two guys have something a little extra for him that could lead to a touchdown more easily.
Yeah, it's not that it's like, oh, I'm going to fade Cooper Kupp. This is a ridiculous thing. It's just ridiculous to me that it's this big of a gap between him and Rashid Shaheed. And Shaheed is the guy that I think adds the extra benefit of being able to double dip and go 6 and 6, like 12 points in your lineup from a return touchdown would be quite useful in a lot of ways. There's no question whatsoever that it is an unlikely scenario. It is not as likely as what we probably think based off of the fact that it just happened against San Francisco 2 games ago here for Seattle. But I think Cooper Kupp's a little bit overowned, and I don't think the public sentiment is as high as what it was at the Apex. I guess everybody did just see him play pretty darn well against his Rams there, got a touchdown, but you take that touchdown off the board. I get he's on the field a bunch, but this is going to be a lot of Kenneth Walker. It's going to be a lot of Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then, yeah, a little bit of AJ Barner going to be mixed in for me as well. You brought up the tush push. He's been their tush push guy. You get to the one, there's a lot of equity there that exists, but probably not something that I'm going to go crazy with. I'm a little bit below the field, just like the Sims have on your screen, 21.6%. I'm right around 18% at the moment. I'm just fine with that. Anything you want to bring up with him here before we move on? I guess the Arroyo piece is the one other thing to bring up. Like, I don't think he's going to be active for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because like he could be active and maybe they do scheme something up for him, but the touchdown markets are not in favor of him. I think his anytime TD I was seeing before the show is lower than Eric Saubert's. So like, I don't think that's a good sign when you're lower than your blocking first tight end. Obviously that does account for some of the risk of him just being inactive. But you know, like for Arroyo, I'm not there with it, but I get why people are. Like, he is a natural pass catcher. Maybe you need that weapon more. I'm just more of a believer that I think Seattle can get it done with their main guys. Like, I don't think, you know, obviously anything can happen in an NFL game, but I think a concentrated role for Walker, JSN with what, you know, he's shown in the playoffs and obviously all year long. I just think they don't have to get super deep and like, yeah, we have to scheme stuff for Arroyo. Like, I think they'll be able to get JSN open. And if not, JSN will be covered. And then they can get stuff to Kupp, get stuff to Barner, get stuff to the running backs, get stuff to Shaheed potentially. But yeah, to me, I don't think, you know, I think we need to go super deep, hoping Arroyo gets out there a lot.
Nope, I don't think so either, but he is all the way down in the doldrums. And, you know, right now, I think the cheapest that I've got anybody in my lineups, I'm not doing any of the max out with a $200 player at the moment, but basically Holani is kind of where the cutoff exists for me right now. I suppose if you got the nukes from everybody up top, but we don't have a CMC in this game. We don't have, you know, like anything on the running back side where you're like getting the guaranteed touches where I just have, like, I can't bypass everything there. And so like, I look at JSN as still a volatile piece in a lot of ways. We've seen floor outcomes where Seattle just waxes teams and they don't have to utilize JSN. That said, it's less likely here just because it's the last game of the season. Even when you're up 21, don't you just keep JSN on the field the entire time? Because who gives a fuck? Like, you do everything you can to win that game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I think there's enough dice roll guys for cheap that you're going to get naturally. Like, I got 10% Saubert, Fields at 6. I got Dearness Johnson in 1% of lineups, which is not any, you know, not a lot, but still, I got Robbie Oots in 2%. I got Jack Westover in 1. Like, if you're trying to play lineups that don't hit, you know, a certain salary threshold and also still, you know, have enough uniqueness to have a decent ROI on them, you're going to get some weird shit with it. So like, Arroyo is no weirder than any of those guys if he were active.
Well, we've got 800 plus people hanging out here talking one game slate. And I know a lot of people are going to be watching this after the fact. If you could, last slate that Chris and I are breaking down of the entire year, hit that like button for us. This has been an awesome NFL season. My 5th here at Stokastic, which is insane to say. It almost doesn't feel real because I remember watching these shows with Laffy back in the day and just, you know, always thinking about opportunities I could have, you know, oh, am I ever going to win the big one? I win a couple 100K tournaments, have had so much success with the tools here at Stokastic. And I'm just so grateful to everybody that's created this community, that's created this opportunity to do something that I truly love to do. So thank you to everybody for that. Got that out of the way so I don't sound like a schmooze at the end of this program, but want everybody also know Chris Spags, one of the reasons that I've loved being in this industry as long as I have, he brought me in right off the bat, or I guess Impact brought me in, but he fostered me. He created a monster. See, nobody wants to see Marshall no more. They want Shady. I'm chopped. So you get that now from me.
No, that's good. You have to dull down your real emotive moments with a little bit of gimmickry, little shtick. I get it.
Hey, Sean Preston, go fuck yourself, San Diego. All right. Anyway, let's get ourselves to another inflection point of this slate, Chris Spags. Hunter Henry, Stephon Diggs. What in God's green earth do we do with these individuals? Because both of them are yet again small stands at the captain spot over in the Sims. It seems like the Sims are just taking 10% away from JSN and giving 2% to Diggs, 2% more to Henry, 2% more. I think that's an awesome way to build out 150 on this specific slate.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just like JSN's talent is so huge. And I think he's one of those guys that, you know, coming into the year, I wasn't crazy high on him in best ball. Just like the ADP just seemed a little bit lofty to me, just not knowing what Seattle was going to be this year. And then to see what the actual impact was and to see him be, you know, in my data, just 1-to-1 with Puka Nacua all year. Like, he really did impress me and win me over in a way where too, like, it's not like Drake May also looks great in my data, but he beat up on teams that suck. And I think that's something we need to be mindful of. We're looking at the stuff. JSN beat up everybody. He beat up everybody good. He beat up everybody bad. Doesn't matter what the situation was. Doesn't matter what the defense they threw at him was. He's so good. But I do think it just based on what smart play is, what, treating your lineups like a portfolio is, you should get more Diggs. Like Diggs, I think might be your most appealing Patriot in some level. The price tag sucks, but like they're going to move him around. He's not going to be in one spot. He's not going to get shadowed. He's not going to get clamped down. They're just going to try to put him in the most advantageous spots to get some targets and hopefully do something with it. So I think that Diggs like actually does have some appeal as like a guy you go to, in lieu of JSN. But like in reality, do I think that hits as often as JSN just being great and potentially being like a Super Bowl MVP kind of guy in a game where Darnold doesn't play super well and Drake May falls apart and they don't win the game? I just think JSN's the guy I want to try to get to more. But I think the Sims approach, like I need to speak positively for Stokastic Sim. That's one. I think Lofty said 3 million maker winners this year. I don't need to do that, but like that's the way you want to do things, unless you want to have your personal stamp on it and go, I'm going to be an idiot and follow the chalk of JSN until the end of the earth, basically.
Yeah, there's so many ways where JSN just absolutely punishes me right off the get-go, and I'm just sitting there knowing I'm min cashing and it's gonna suck. But like, yeah, I'm just gonna be tracing a little bit away from here or there. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, there's no question he's the most likely guy to eviscerate. And the ownership's already there. But yeah, I'm trimming a little bit here or there and spreading the board here. But I think this is probably the next most interesting thing to talk about on the New England side. Mac Hollins, never been the sexiest play in a lot of ways, although I think some women like 6'7" who don't wear shoes and, look like Amazonian men. Not my style, not my kind of guy. But you know what? He's a different ball of wax. There's no doubt about that. Coaches love this guy. They absolutely always have. He goes out there and plays like an absolute savage. He is an insane person in blocking schemes. And he didn't play Week 17, 18, or the first 2 weeks of the playoffs. He returned and played 61% of snaps, Spags. It has a huge headache and a huge ramifications of what I want to do with these New England guys. I think Mac Hollins ends up being the next best piece of value, or my second favorite pass catcher behind Hunter Henry and in front of Stephon Diggs, who I think that Seattle can definitely scheme against a little bit more. 3,600. I know it's kind of a weird price point sitting down there a little bit below the kickers, a little bit below the defenses, but like, I think Mac Hollins is one of those guys that right now, he's the only guy that I'm boosting in the Sims. I have not done anything else in the Sims whatsoever that I've changed anything drastically. I guess I took a little bit down, for JSN, just because I was getting so much in the flex earlier today. But when it all push comes to shove, Mac Hollins, he's somebody that I think is potentially going to come in lower owned than we have projected. And I feel ridiculous saying it, but like he might be my favorite sub 5 piece relative to ownership.
Yeah, I got him in about 25% of my lineups between the flex and cap. That I know Sean Press in the chat was asking he asked a couple times. Really want to know my Mac Hollins captain exposure. It's at 2%, so dead with the field. Nothing too
there were a lot
there.
of Mac Hollins captains that were showing up earlier in the week. Did you see that as well? Did you notice that?
Yeah, because I think that's seeing like a uniqueness lever, which still, I mean, Mac Hollins has literally broken NFL slates before, not on the Patriots, but it's interesting to see. I think the field's gonna like Mac Hollins a little bit too much, so like I'm cool just kind of holding hands there, and if he pays off, great, I'll be with him. And at least I'm again deploying him in unique stuff. Really, the big thing for Mac Hollins, and I think you mentioned all the football stuff really well. The blocking is really a big reason he's on the field a lot. He's also a very good, sacrificial X kind of receiver because he doesn't care about getting targets, but he'll be out there, can draw enough attention, can make a play downfield, do something useful, and he again can still show show pass, but like actually block for the run game really well out there. So he should be out there a bunch. And just being out there gives you the most upside as opposed to your, guys down the depth chart for the Patriots a little bit more. For Mac Hollins, the big thing to me is like, again, being really mindful of not playing with Helani. It's going to be a very obvious value duo that people use to get the rest of the stuff around it. Again, we're talking like a ton of dupes here, industry-wide, ton of dupes across all the data out there. So like for Mac Hollins, I think he's a solid play. I have no issue with it. I didn't boost him. I'm just cool holding hands to the field, but I see why you would boost him. I don't think it's a bad thing to do that at all. And just be mindful of like just not playing him. Because if you play Mac Hollins, I think it's going to be easy to fall into like really dupe heavy lineups.
Kayshon Boutte, Kyle Williams, Pop Douglas. Do you have a stand on any of these guys whatsoever? Because I seem to be pretty flat on all of them. Hollins is really the only guy that I'm trying to boost up whatsoever relative to current ownership.
Yeah, I got the most Mac Hollins as well. I didn't boost Booty, but I do think it scares me a little bit to only have 8% in my lineups right now.
Yeah.
In the field at 18%, he is such another one play can make it pay off guy. But unlike Travion Henderson, he's actually out there and can do something with the opportunities he gets, as opposed to just getting a few and then they just want to go back to Ramondre Stevenson. For Butte, he does have opportunity out there and he has a sort of clearly defined role. Price tag is awful though at 5,600, so that makes him kind of tough to get to. Being that much more expensive than Matt Collins, and he's probably not going to play as much, would be my guess. But he'll be out there a good amount. So I think Butte, not a bad play. And it scares me to be, having half the exposure there. The rest of the guys at receiver, Pop Douglas, I got 8% of the fields at 5. Kind of feel like ownership wise, that's a more advantageous spot, but 3,200, really close to that Matt Collins price tag. If Pop Douglas does anything, maybe he can pass up Matt Collins, and if he doesn't get any targets or doesn't catch him. But yeah, the New England secondary guys, not super exciting. And because I am only getting 33% Drake May, I just didn't end up getting a lot of these guys anyway. But certainly they're the dice roll you can make that does cut your ownership product pretty meaningfully. And if you play a bunch of them and get that right, then you're talking about a New England dominant build that probably will be even more unique.
Friends, we are reaching the kicker defense portion of the program. It gets a little bit grimy here. It gets a little bit naughty, if you will. But before we go into the recap, talking through some of our lineups, showing you some of those lineups that I just did a second ago that are simming out at the top, just want to say thank you one more time to everybody for the entire season. Already did my sentimental bit, but Spags, would you like to say thank you to anybody, particularly I don't know, your favorite co-host that you've done these shows with this year?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It would be really foolish of me to not thank my favorite co-host I've done NFL shows with this year. It's really been great to be alongside this guy, underneath him on screen, sometimes right next to him on screen in so many situations. But you saw him on the hour right before the show with Ben Rasa. Laffy.
There you go. Yep. Colt. I just waited. You just set up.
You knew it was coming, and I saw it in your eyes. So it didn't give me the joy that it could have. But no, it is a pleasure being with you every week as well. It's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure doing content here always. You guys know if you watch NBA as well, I'm doing streams Saturday with EMAC, Friday nights usually with Greg, now with Josh. So it's always a pleasure for me to be able to gamble on this stuff and get paid some money back to lose on a slate. But it's also just, great to be here with you guys to share the enthusiasm things, and also to hopefully, get you guys where you need to go in terms of understanding stuff better, or just thinking about things differently. And then you play what you want, because, gambling's all personal choice and all that. But great to be here for another year with you, and to get the full year with you too. It's been a lot of fun. So hopefully you could run it back. And I think I know somebody who'd love to say something before we get into kickers and defenses.
Oh, we're doing it now. We're not going to sign off with it. Gotcha. Go ahead.
That's what I thought, is that we don't want to leave it till the end, right?
Yeah, that's well, maybe we can leave. Oh, he's out. Oh, well, no, he's not out.
Well, I know we like to get a little sentimental around here, so I'll give my sentimental spiel as well. I got a lot of sentiment up my tuchus right now with this guy's hand here, but besides that, you guys know as I am Puppet Lindquist, related to the Eric Lindquist in some way. I think we were the same guy. Now we're just kind of tangentially related. But like he always says, for a slate like this one, sometimes you get the glory, sometimes you get the hole, and I love them both. So let's go and get a little bit of fun in our lives today, ladies and gentlemen. Ha cha cha! The dog's gone too, so I have impunity. I can dance around. Ha ha ha!
There we go.
One
more for the year. That wasn't the best one. I think it's unfair. About
I think it was
Wheeler.
pretty solid. I mean,
I always pull up the worst chats. So I'm pulling up the ones where people laugh. The most cringeworthy, that's hurtful. It's hurtful, especially for one of the kids. You're named after one of the fucking backyard baseball kids. Come on. Oh, that's Pete Warner. Never mind. I thought it was Pete Wheeler, who's the redheaded kid from backyard baseball. I like him more anyway.
Pete Warner's in the chat, though. Pete Warner has been in the chat many, many times. So
I've seen him say that. He's never said anything mean about me, but I'll tell you what, that's the last puppet bit of the year, and you can't be mean to the last puppet bit. It's a glory hole.
I'm going to say Jason Myers or Andy Borregales. That's going to be the one I go to here. I'm over on both kickers. I think one of the things about Andy Borregales that's got me around 30% of him, he's been kicking at absolute natural disasters. You can't cite a single thing of what's happened in freezing cold temperatures and going to Pittsburgh and then playing both games at home and then playing in a blizzard and missing kicks. I don't care. It's going to be nice out. It's going to be much, much better here for Jason Myers, Andy Borregales. I am just fine being overweight to both.
Yeah, I agree. Myers came up a lot for me. I think that's one of the symptoms if you are trying to get to lower salary lineups. He made 40% of mine, which, yikes. And I love getting kickers so much, but it seems like a kicker slate based on the sim data. Borregales, he's one of those guys too. I feel like he paid off a lot in showdowns this year, getting him at 30%. I'm getting an uncomfortable amount of kicker, Eric, but I feel like in this kind of slate, the Super Bowl 2, you get the kind of tense games sometimes. And these are two defenses that have played well all playoffs long for Seattle all year long. So the hope is you get some drives stalling out in the red zone, and two coaches who perhaps have learned that we don't need to go for it every single time after. I think you still want to, but I think that might get a little bit of this game might be a pushback against that because these coaches are a little more kicker friendly.
Let's build a lineup for the people as we get out of here. Give them a little bit of a parting gift. We've talked about a lot of takes. We've talked about a lot of what we're doing personally with our builds. I wanted to finish in the single lineup sim, especially if you're watching this after the fact and you just got done getting attacked by Puppet Lindquist, which I will say, it's not the worst thing ever. This guy likes Puppet Lindquist more than me. I appreciate that. I'm okay with that. You know what? Yeah, the glory hole shout out is just...
Also, real fast, we missed a super chat from SC, and I know SC, one of our guys, but I want to say thank you guys. Best in the business. Love you guys. Break down the process in depth. Good luck tonight. There you go. Shout out SC. Appreciate him always. Positive vibes in chat, which for me stands out. So shout out SC, always being a good guy in the chat. And appreciate the kind words and money being given.
We appreciate you guys. Everybody super kind with the super chat, super kind with the love. I'm going to let you pick our captain and the direction that we kind of want to dive into this one.
I mean, I feel like for me, I'm being a chalky bitch on the slate. So I don't. Should we just like? Should we cut loose here?
Yeah, let's cut loose with it. Bruce with it.
All right. So everybody out there, we talked about it. Everybody out there down on Drake May, but I think much like the great Mike Ehrmantraut once said, they're all doing half measures. Let's go full measures. Seahawks D at captain.
Man, and a Breaking Bad / Better Call Saul reference wrapped into everything. Mike Ehrmantraut, we're doing that. I love you so much.
That's my guy, man. Mike is all wisdom. I love Mike.
Shut the fuck up. Let me
died like a man.
Peace. Let me die in peace. I think that was pretty good.
And scene. The Emmy goes to Eric Lindquist. Congratulations.
Pretty good. Just the straight tip over. I just right by the river. God, that's a beautiful spot to die. Living the dream, I guess. Let's get ourselves. I mean, let's not pass over some raw points in our lives here. Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'll click him in here. And I talked about it earlier. A guy that you and I are both on, Mac Hollins. We'll make some Drake May correlation. We'll add some other things that we can here as we're rounding out this lineup. But guys.
Wait, you put Drake May at captain. I said no half measures. Play Seahawks D at captain.
Oh, Seahawks D. You hate me. Never mind.
Because everybody else is going to fade Drake May and try to get cute. I think we go Seahawks D and we go let's say Drake May really gets his dick stomped in. Let's say he goes home and his wife can't even look at him, kind of bad game.
Oh, okay. Well, then we can build this one out. This will not be what I end up doing in that pocket max for what it's worth. However, I definitely see the path here. We're going to go Seahawks defense. Then I got to bring Kenneth Walker along for the ride. I know that we're a little bit flat on him in the flex and that we're over on Kenneth Walker in the captain, which I definitely like as well when you're building out stuff for 150. But Seahawks, Kenneth Walker, let's just combine the two. He gets 22 carries and we go along our merry way.
Okay. I guess with the next pick here, I mean, obviously the Patriots have to score some points. And I think we're saying the Drake May doesn't succeed kind of build here. Kicker or Ramondre? You're a Ramondre. I'll give you your guy. I'll show something nice for you. Put Ramondre in.
All right. We'll put Ramondre in. And then I'm going to actually continue on some kind of that trend here. Hunter Henry. We got to add another New England guy in there to some extent. Ramondre, Hunter. I know that might be a little bit unlikely whatsoever, but Hunter Henry could get peppered with 6-7 targets, 4 or 5 catches, 40 yards. That could be enough in a game script where if Seahawks defense goes nuts, they just ride Kenneth Walker if they're semi-effective there, and we can kind of move along our merry way.
All right, give me JSN then. I feel like let's take some of that salary off now. I'm not sure what we would do with spending all the money in the mid-range, but I feel like you getting $6K left. You could leave some on the table. You could put in your boy Shaheed. That worked out.
I think this looks pretty good, actually. This is one of those where Seahawks defense plus Shaheed, that's just the thing that I'm going to want to do. Holy mother of God! Holy mother of God, clear the lineup. We cannot end on that. We are not ending on absolute evisceration in the entire world. I think the Hunter Henry thing thrown into the mix probably didn't do us any favors whatsoever. Also, large contest, no, we gotta salvage everything. My family can't even talk to me when I walk in the door now. It is what it is. We'll have Ramondre as the one piece there, but let's see what the completed lineup looks like when we sim it out this way, and see if we can't salvage the day here. There's Olani, there's Sam Darnold. Please give us some green, baby. Hey! There we go. Hey, Mazel Tov. Friends, this concludes NFL Live Before a Lock, the final one of the 2025-26 NFL season. Super Bowl 60 is underway here. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist. Go follow Chris Spags. Any final words for the people?
No, it's been a really fun season here being with you guys. Really fun season hanging out with Eric. And, I'll give my real one now. So it's really been a fun time here to be with you guys. So I'm really appreciate the opportunity to do it. Shout out to Stokastic as well for all the great data and tools. Shout out you guys for putting the effort on your end to make sure your DFS player come with good takes. We always appreciate that. But check me out. Splash Play, my NBA channel will still be going on Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. We'll be doing MLB this year as well. SplashPlayPodcast.com. You actually get my package now. All the data I put out on SplashPlayPodcast.com. You get it through Tails now. So that's I'm actually making it cheaper than I put through YouTube. So go check that out on Tails if you want. Search my name. You get access to everything I do. But shout out to all you guys. Shout out to Eric. Appreciate you guys. And let's go team.
You guys can check out Tails. Oh, look at that. Back when I had the most profit of the week. And that is not this week. Convenient. However, it is not this week. Had one good day. And then yesterday was profitable. And this morning, I think Jalen Brunson went over his assist prop immediately, which absolutely kills me. Shout out the under that I think got obliterated there. But the point is the Tails app. If you could download it, leave us a review. It goes a long way for all of us. Spags is firing up some stuff over there. I've been firing some stuff over there. We had Lofty and Ben already put a collab out there for the people on their show that they did on the OddsShopper channel this morning. Awesome opportunity. Easiest way you can support this channel. And on the way out, 40% off NFL weekly packages. Promo code defense. And hey, why not throw it up here as well? $1 using promo code prop. He's Chris Spags. He is the best co-host that I could ever ask for on this program. Thank you, everybody. I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck. Hopefully I'm 100K richer tomorrow. Probably not, but, math, it's going to be fun. We'll see you guys back here for NBA Live Before a Lock tomorrow. Catch you later.